Okay, got a lighting issue, I guess, because of the angle of the sun behind me. Hopefully on YouTube that'll get better as we go. But may the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this message. Amen. Amen. Shalom to everybody. Shalom to everybody. Welcome. How you doing, Sister Beverly, Brother Clem, to everybody coming on TikTok, YouTube. We give all honor and praise to the Most High. Once again, Yahweh Elohim, we give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. And we're thankful and grateful to everybody for being on. Thank you to those who spent a lot of time with us the last couple of days. And we appreciate you all. Thank you to everybody who's listening today, being part of this series. We're back in our frequently asked questions series today, back in our bag. And today we're going to talk about something that might be a little bit much for some, but it is what it is. And we are going to speak on that briefly. Once again, though, let me say hello to everybody. Once again, Sister Beverly, Brother Clem, Sister Rhonda, Sister Deja, Sister Barbara. How's everybody doing? Shalom to everybody. Rashan Shalom, belated Shabbat Shalom, or Shalom if I didn't have a chance to say it to you yesterday. But we are grateful and thankful for another opportunity to come before you one more again. So today we want to speak specifically, and hello Bounty, we want to speak specifically on a frequently asked question. You know, this is kind of dealing with a bunch of questions, but dealing with sex. And for whatever reason, we have fallen into this weird position that a lot of church folk have, which is that we don't necessarily need to talk about sex. And it's something that is a taboo subject. And why would you want to talk about it, et cetera, et cetera. But it is one of the biggest things that's going on. I'm sorry, everybody on TikTok, give me a second. Hold on 1 second. I got to make sure that we don't go through the battery so fast. Let me make sure all that stuff is taken care of. And yeah, we want to make sure that we speak on this because, right, it is a huge issue that's going on. And we don't talk about the fact that this issue is going on. And so we have a lot of people who are dealing with bad things in their relationships because we won't speak on this and be honest about what's going on, right? Hello, shalom to everybody again on TikTok. Thanks for coming back in. Hello, Sister Deborah. So we want to speak on today a very big topic, a very necessary topic to go over. However, a topic that we haven't done our due diligence in, and that is being oversexed and undervalued. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? How you doing, Joyce? Shalom to everybody. Hashan shalom to everybody coming on. We want to talk about being oversexed and undervalued. All right, this is a kind of a low-key, frequently asked question. It's a question that's asked a lot, but we don't talk about it enough. And a lot of the issues that people are talking about are really coming from two things. Once again, that you have a lot of men and women who are oversexed and undervalued. And I have to make sure that we say men and women because we usually will focus just on the woman side of the spectrum and not talk about the men's side of the spectrum on this. And it's causing us a lot of cognitive dissonance and a lot of conversation, right? It's causing a lot of people a lot of frustration. It's causing a lot of people to even feel lonely or whatever. And a lot of men who were able to have a lot of sex as they're younger will tell you when they got older, not worth it. And when I got into focus on my work, not my job, not toiling for somebody, but my actual business and things of that nature, that's something that wasn't as important. And really the reality is having as much sex with as many people or being able to at least say you have the ability to have sex with as many people and all that is not something that's important at all. Right? Sex is important. Sex is vital. In our culture, sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. You should be pre-qualified before you even have sex. That doesn't have to be your belief system. What I would say, though, is whatever your belief system, to think that the ability to have sex with a bunch of people is a win. Right? Think about that just in and of itself. That people believe that because I have the ability, how you doing, Minister Tamara? How you doing, Sister Kimberly? Right? Because I have the ability to have sex as much or more than anybody else can, a lot of people would say that means you're out here winning. What does that have to do with your society, your culture, your family doing better? Right? And you see what I'm saying? And even people who get into marriages, because even while being married, they're still hanging around people or going to clubs. Or I'm not saying you can't go to clubs or hang around these people. I'm just saying the shows you're watching, all these things, they go back to how much sex can you have, right? Thank you for the love, definitely Black girl, right? We are people that are oversexed and definitely undervalued. Um, how you doing, Minister Selection? So, like, if you're oversexed and undervalued, we got a lot of issues coming up. We got a lot of lust issues coming up. We have a lot of people who aren't thinking about spirituality, right? Like, we're not think like people don't even like. It's weird. People who say that I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Okay, they'll pray over their food, but they won't pray before they have sex because they don't even think that that's a necessity, because they don't think of it as being, you think your food is more important as far as protection of what's going in your body rather than soul ties, DNA, DNA memory, becoming one with somebody. These are terms that we don't even think about because in our society, once again, we are oversexed. Simultaneously, we are undervalued. Right. And if I don't get to your question, thank you, Sister Barbara, for the reminder. If I don't get to your question right away, if you're on TikTok, you can put it in the Q&A box. If you're on the podcast, if you're on YouTube, feel free to just put it in the chat. But yeah, we are people that's oversexed and undervalued. Oversexed and undervalued. And it's really doing a lot of damage. We have young boys that are living inside of grown men because we've been taught to be oversexed and undervalued, right? We've been taught to be in a place that even says, hey, like, it's so much into trying to go ad hominem and go at people that will make fun of their appearance because their appearance is something that we don't comprehend, their culture, their tribe, like people do right now, because it's about this weird appearance of that as far as what makes others feel good or what makes you feel in line because you've been undervalued, right? And so, sus, I feel for you when you make a comment like that, because people that are undervalued, they try to undervalue people, you know, because people are oversexed and undervalued. We're going to be speaking on that a lot today. But it's real. How you doing, Sister Tracy? It's very real, right? That we have a lot of people who undervalue human life, who undervalue their experience, who undervalue making sure that you're with one husband or one wife. They undervalue it, right? Right. The hypersexuality, if we want to call it that, right? You know, um, hypo would just be underneath, right? Like hypoglycemic or hyperglycemic means over. A lot of people are overvaluing. Now, once again, in our culture, because I always got to come from a cultural perspective, right, to make sure people comprehend where I'm coming from, because I'm not coming from everybody else's culture. So I will admit to this, right? And how you doing, Brother Cole? I will admit to you that I'm not worried about, what somebody in Western society or somebody who upholds Western medicine or certain things like that would say. I'm not worried about what somebody, like, I'm coming from a specific type of mindset. And we uphold a mindset that once again, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. You should be prepared for sex. You should already be a husband before you would ask somebody to become one with you. But we don't, once again, because we are undervalued and we are oversexed but undervalued, even including undervalued sex. We don't even think about sex as something, that means that two people should be having an eternal, this is like an eternal two spirits coming together through their souls intertwining, that really is their bodies being able to reflect what's going on in the spirit. We don't even think about that. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Mind. How you doing? Hello to the Queen. Once again, check out my wife on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. But we have a lot of people who are sitting up there saying, being overseed has nothing to do with maturity. Being overseed has nothing to do with maturity. I don't comprehend the exact being overseed or being able to give seed. I don't comprehend exactly where we're going. I just want to make sure I'm on the same track with you. But yeah, and shalom to you, Mina. How you doing? So we have a lot of different things going on. You said young women teaching young girls that sexuality is all that matters. It's dangerous. You said focused on wants of the flesh and not the need for healing of the spirit. Most definitely. Um, you know, and so we have all these different things that we're talking about, but we don't want to be about that. It's often interesting that we are so great at the spiritual that we've made it so mystical that it's no longer practical. Right? Look at statistics. If you want to be practical, what is the practical application of people who are oversexed and undervalued? Right? Sister Tracy, were you trying to call in on purpose to the podcast, or was that an accident? I want to make sure if you were calling in, we get you in, right? You know, so it's like we have this stuff where it's undervalued. Even the people that are trying to say stuff that they think is going to do something to me or whatever, like we undervalue people. We're okay with undervaluing people to the point to where now we undervalue the experience that two people should come together when they have sex. Right? You said, can I elaborate on that? I don't know which that are you talking about? If you don't mind helping me out, right? And thank you, Parole Girl. Appreciate it. Thank you for the likes, for the shares, for the love, for the gifts, super chats, whatever they might be. We appreciate you all on all the platforms, right? But you can see, like, if somebody can come on here and just be like, I don't like your hair, so I'm just gonna make fun of your hair. I'm gonna go ahead and homin them. And you don't know me. I mean, then it shows that if you're somebody that's out there and you undervalue somebody you don't know, I mean, how much more so? Like, do you undervalue even the people that you know? We think that it's something that's different. Do I believe in soul ties? I mean, people come up with the term soul ties. Soul ties not necessarily a biblical or even any religiosity or canonical viewpoint doesn't really use the word soul ties except for new school stuff. But like, the reality is, it's like, yeah, you come together. What is a soul? Like, even think about what a soul is. You use the word soul all the time. It's used in your society all the time, and we don't even know it. Okay, no problem, Sister Tracy. I was just trying to make sure. But we use the word soul all the time. It's called psyche in the Greek, or psyche. Psyche or psyche. That's what soul is. So when you go to a psychologist, you go to somebody who studies your soul or looks at the logic of your soul. So you use that term all the time. So the psyche, the soul, the psychology, the study of the soul is something that's definitely there. And so, yeah, are there two psyches that come together? If we just make it practical, right? If we just make it practical, two people come together. Once again, it's two become one. Now I have to go once again cultural. And we're talking about the culture in which we're having this conversation and where I'm coming from. You must even comprehend, like, people of Yashdale, North African, ancient Africa, plurality is different even than what we think it is, right? Amen, Anubis. The plurality, plural, something being plural is actually something that is different than what we think it is. What do I mean by that? So with my people and with the Bible, even if you say plural, we think plural is more than one, but plurality actually starts at the number three, where two or three are gathered. You'll see stuff like that, right? What is that saying? Plurality starts at three because two people together should be working as one. So husband and a wife should be working as one. If you know Hebrew characters, the first two characters, Aleph Bet, to the Father and the Son working as one. All the characters, all the words that we have come out of the Father and the Son really being one, and then humbling himself. If you know the next three characters, then it would be Gamal humbles himself, Dalit becoming the door, what Techet, the Holy Spirit. Now three becoming one and being plural. So now we would say we and stuff like that concerning the Most High. Or he would say we concerning we, but really two is just one. And this is one of the reasons why people even have a fight. I'm not going to go deep into that because that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about oversexed and undervalued. But that's why a lot of people even have issues when we have the conversations. And people are like, how do you believe in the Bible? And really, it's just the Son and the Father and blah, blah. And really, the Son comes from the Father and this and that or whatever. People had an argument because they don't even comprehend the culture. But two people are becoming one. right? Two people are becoming one. And so anybody, and that's great that you would keep yourself single, right? But because here's the deal. Once again, we should be pre-qualified for marriage. We should be pre-qualified for sex. Sex is marriage. Marriage is sex. I mean, it doesn't matter what you are, Mexican. It doesn't matter, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Thank you for being on. It's great that Mexicana, Puerto Ricana, Cubana, whatever it is that you are, right? If you're Shui, if you're Gullah, if you're Taino, whatever the case might be, right? But what we're talking about is that while you're before you even get into marriage or sex, you should already be pre-qualified. That's why he who finds a wife, right, already finds something that is constitutional, you would call it a good thing, and obtains favor from Adon. Oh, hey, how you doing, boss? Can I Haiti in the house? That's what's up. The people of Toussaint and others. So yeah, but these are the things that you have to see. What do you mean pre-qualified? He who finds a wife finds some a constitutional or a great thing. In our culture, in biblical culture, you should already be a husband or be a wife before you get married. You're supposed to be qualified as such. So when I find you, you should already be what you're supposed to be. But because we're oversexed and undervalued, we don't even think about being valuable enough to have sex. We just think that everybody should lower their value to have sex, right? But they'll find the constitutional. That's what that word good, because good and God are actually the same word, and God is actually a Germanic deity. So people don't even realize when they're using God, we're using something different, right? But he who finds a constitutional or a good thing, right? Your constitution, biblical, right? Constitution, biblical constitution. He who finds something that matches the lawful criteria of a wife will find an amazing, outstanding, incredible, life-altering, help meet, right, thing, and will obtain favor from Adam. But if you find something that is not a wife, see, the Bible does not discuss marriage is between a child and a child, an adult and a child, an adult and adult, a man and a man and a man, a woman and a woman, a man and a woman, a man and a wife, a woman and a husband. It declares that a marriage is between a husband and the wife. It is right now when people even get confused, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. Do you know that if you get married to somebody, if you were to go ahead right now, elope, go somewhere, whatever, get married to this person, your boo, your childhood sweetheart, whatever, and you were to go somewhere and get married and y'all didn't have any sex for 3 months, do you know that your spouse supposedly could come before the judge and say, hey, they won't sleep with me? The judge say, why? He said, well, we just eloped, whatever. I just not feeling that person, whatever. The judge will annul the marriage because if you did not consummate it, if you did not have sex, there is no marriage. So even though people would have you and I believe that sex and marriage are separate, even the law that you live under, even in your states, even in your countries, they would say that even if, watch this, even if you had sex and then got married, and from the time you got married and walked down the aisle and came and got your certificate and everything, done and all that, they would still say from that time, if you didn't have sex from that time past, they would say that your marriage is null and void. Because even the world, as much as we say we should be in the world and not of it, even the world has better comprehension of marriage because they understand marriage is sex, sex is marriage. You said your dad had to have permission to get married to your mother, and family watches who you marry. Yeah, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Well, you said that's the lifestyle of the Mexican is different than the American. I mean, I guess for sure. I mean, that's like saying, the lifestyle of a person from Georgia is different than the lifestyle of a person from New York. I mean, there's Afro Mexicans, and I don't even like that term. Like I'm Taino, I'm married into Seminole. There's a lot of Seminole people who are part African and part, Black Native, and I'm also Taino, I'm also Cherokee too, so I'm tied there too. But, there's a lot of us that are tied to each other from there. There's a lot of people who know that they're Black down there, or they're now are starting to say they're Afro-Mexicans. Heck, there's more Afro-Mexicans, using that term loosely, right? But there's more Afro-Mexicans than there are, African-Americans by number. So, I get it, but I'm just trying to say overall, culturally speaking, you'd be surprised how many people, because we do this whole thing, Mexico's completely different than America, and there's nobody that has certain values and this and that. I mean, that's not necessarily so. I mean, there's a lot of Mexican people who are, homosexual, just like there's a lot of Americans that are homosexual. My goal is not to try and separate in that manner, because you'd be surprised that it's Western civilization. Just like people try to act like Mexicans bring crime and stuff. It's like y'all killing people in America, right? So it's not my goal to separate it like that, right? More so than to get us to recognize that we really, as a society in general, Western society in general. Now, I'm not saying your parents don't do what they do. I'm not saying that your family doesn't stand out. Maybe you're blessed to where your community and everything you grew up in, they were completely different and never dealt with any of that. That's great if that's the case. But for those of us who walk in other societies, help other people, do other things, might move to different places, might have to deal with these things, it's just a warning. So I'm glad that you're up on the game. But for everybody, we live in a society where we are oversexed and undervalued, right? We are oversexed and undervalued. Um, and so we want to speak on that being oversexed and undervalued today, and speak from, because it's a maturity issue. And there's a lot of people who are just not able to deal with that fact, that don't even admit to that fact, that don't even realize that your children, when they go to school, they're oversexed and undervalued. If you don't believe so, when your children go to school in these places where they say that, hey, you don't have to be a male or female, they're already telling them about sex. Some of you would be surprised to know that some places in preschool and kindergarten and first grade, they're already going to sex ed classes. Now, supposedly they don't show them everything they show them in high school, but they're already doing this. We're already dealing with sex when these children haven't even gotten close to puberty, and they're already asking them to tell people, what is your sexual orientation, because we undervalue you so much that we want to just flood you with sex. Forgive me, right? I know some people think I shouldn't use this type of language, so forgive me if this is going to mess you up. If you have a child listening, maybe you want them to go away for 20 seconds or so, right? I'll give you 10 seconds to let them go. I'll say the word I'm going to say, and then you can bring them back if you want. But I was listening to something from Kevin Samuels, and I don't agree with everything Kevin Samuels says, but he was talking about some stuff that's really important. And he basically said, like, how much pussy do you need? If somebody needs to hear me say it exactly like that, right? Because somebody needs to hear, like, how much pussy do you need? I promise I won't bring it up if you got babies watching and stuff. I know sometimes babies hear some of the stuff we're saying, so I'll be careful. But I mean, how much do you really need? How many men are out here doing what they're doing? And like, how much do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it do? What is that doing to you? What is that helping you out with? What is that causing you to grow in? What is that doing to help your community? Like, how much of it do you need? You said you see it's the way because the devil know if you train up a child, they won't depart from it. I mean, yeah, that's, amen. That's great. That's great. Right. So we need to train them up. That's great. And some of us are adults and we're not trained up too. So let's deal with where we are. Like, how much of it do you need? Why is so much stuff tied? Why is it that if you buy a ring, it's going to go somewhere? Yeah, you could definitely catch a disease. It's programming, garbage in, garbage out. Okay. Amen. Thanks for being part of the community, SK. Said some things really need to be said, right? No, I'm not Ashanti. I'm Shwi, but I'm not Ashanti or Ashanti Shwi. I kind of sort of know tiny bit of Ashanti Shwi. Tiny bit. I have not practiced in years. So, I don't even know if I'm saying Akwaba, Etisen and all that stuff. I don't even know if I'm even in the right ballpark as far as languages, right? I believe I am, but it's been a minute. But yeah, my wife even said the same thing. It's dangerous to sleep around because you'll catch spirits, not just disease, but spirits. What is dis-ease, by the way? It's a physical manifestation. See, we think disease is just something physical only, but dis-ease, I'm not at ease, and your body reacts to not being at ease. That's really what we're talking about, right? And so, yeah, we are programmed, television program. You see they So like what's even the saying, right? How this is how we are oversexed and undervalued. They don't say that people sell product. They say sex sells products. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for the love. Was it is it Karimi girl or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Forgive me if I'm not right. But like they don't say people sell, even though people honestly can sell, right? You can sell your culture, you can sell yourself, you can just be who you are, you can produce things for your community, and you can make sure that you're good. But they don't do that. What they say, sex sells, right? NBA, NFL, right? Not sure about soccer. I think soccer has their own version of it, but I can't. But depending on where you're in the world, I might be wrong about that. But NBA, NFL, even in baseball, sometimes and different things like that, depending. Like on the college levels, high school levels, junior high levels, elementary school levels, Pop Warner games. What are you going to see? You're going to see cheerleaders, right? You're going to see cheerleaders. Why are you going to see cheerleaders? Because sex sells. If you buy, if you're watching a show and they go to commercial, for those of us that still do television, right? Because even when I watch stuff that I can pay to make sure that I don't see commercials. That's how petty I am when it comes to commercials. I only watch commercials if we're in a hotel, right? But when you watch a commercial, so you finish watching whatever you're watching, right? You finish watching it, and then right, so you just finished watching X-Men and Storm and Rogue and Jubilee and all these people they're wearing this tight outfits and stuff, and making sure you can see their legs and making sure you can see everything. Sometimes even seeing nipple imprints, but they're real slick about how they put them in. You finish watching and you go to commercial. I'm talking about the cartoon, by the way, right? They show more body in the cartoons, well, except for Mystique. They show more body in the cartoons than they did in the movies. So you finish watching that cartoon, and then all of a sudden you go to commercial. What are they going to sell in the commercial? Oh, let's have somebody selling jewelry. And when we sell the jewelry, what are we going to do? We're going to make sure that sex sells, even if it's a shadow, right? Is it Zales, or I don't know who does the thing where it's you see the outline of the people, but you never see the people. But you always see a woman. You put it around her neck. She's always got curves in certain places and things like that. And you come into a kiss. Because why? Sex sells. We are oversexed and undervalued. You said the 5 men, yours, the 5 babies, 11 DNA. Mm-hmm. You said there's nothing wrong with watching stuff. What's wrong is the energy that's being transmitted. Well, yeah. So that's why you guard your gates. There's nothing wrong with watching something per se, unless that something is designed to be able to sell you something. And we have been sold. Like, there's nothing wrong with hip hop. People be like, why are you listening to hip hop? You're a pastor. Why would you listen to hip hop? Because it's dope. Why would you say dope? Because of blah, blah. It's like, whatever. I get that part, right? But at the end of the day, listen to hip hop to where, the goal of it is to say, to the windows, to the walls. We act like these new school cats, we say stuff. What about when you was at prom? Talking about to the windows, to the walls, to the sweat down your balls. Make all these females crawl. Talking about skeet, skeet, skeet. That was in, for some of y'all, was doing that in your junior high and high school prom. And I remember looking around and being like, what in the world is going on? And girls dancing to it. And guys, of course, dancing to it too. And it being something that's supposed to be there. But the same girl that's dancing to it would say, which, by the way, I'm not saying we should put our hand on women in any way, shape, or form, but I'm trying to get you to see the context and the cognitive dissonance that's happened, to where all of a sudden that same girl who would hear that song would then say, oh, but I need to feel respected. But as long as she hears it in a song, it's okay to be disrespected. You said if you're influenced easily, that's true. Also, too, though, you're influenced all the time, so you should check everything. That's why we crucify the flesh daily. We should never get to a place where we think that we have no discipleship or no discipline left in us, or nothing that needs to be disciplined, because the second we reach that is the second that we're no value. We always have to grow. I won't even say grow, because we talked about this yesterday, right? Like my wife and I, we grow plants. and we grow our food, right? And we're trying to get even better and better and stronger. And we're about to start traveling the country to certain places that people said we can use their land and grow some more, so we can start making sure that we can give to our community more, right? And if we grow a plant, if you play gospel music for it, or if you play heavy metal music for it, the plant still grows. It's influenced, whether it's heavy metal or gospel. But when you eat it, it might taste different. And you'll be like, well, it's the same plant. Yeah, but because of the influence, it might taste different. It's the same thing. So we're influenced by a whole lot. And we should always be checking what's going on. Minister Tamer said disease, physical manifestation of spirit, not at ease. Yep. You heard that at a wedding. See, even at a wedding, to the windows, to the wall, right? Snoop Dogg, I don't love them. I don't got to finish it. You know what I'm about to say, right? You know, these are things that are there. And even the people that are singing things that are supposed to be nice and sweet and all these things, what do they have to do? They have to present themselves in a certain manner. You could be singing Bitty Bitty Bamba, but still have to make sure that you're showing your body, and you're not even really at an age where we should be seeing all that. You can be Aaliyah and they still gonna make you sing age ain't nothing but a number. Yeah, we gonna clown R. Kelly for that part, but we ain't gonna talk about that Jay-Z was more than likely doing something with that, because we're oversexed and we're undervalued and we're so into the point. Now, when I say we, I'm talking about the society, I'm talking about the community. It might not be you, but if anybody in your community is doing it, they're the weak link in the chain. And we got to make sure that the chain is strong. So we got to deal with all of us, right? Yeah, we sing music and play stuff before we go into combat, right? They saw that, I know people that were in, I know soldiers that were when they went in 1992, and we're doing is it 92? I might have the wrong year, but I believe it was 92, 93, somewhere around there. And they went into Iraq, and guess what they were blasting? Oh, no, I don't think it was Iraq. Sorry, I'm going too late. Excuse me. 2000, 2004. I'm thinking about the other war, the Gulf War. Excuse me. But I know that cats that went in and they were playing bombs over Baghdad, right? Because it's something that got them hyped. Like but music influences, television shows influence, parents influence, other brothers influence, other sisters influence, people that look like us influence, people who don't look like us influence, right? And we have to check these things. We have to guard our gates. We got to have people at the door that say that this will not get in, right? Because once again, we're oversexed, undervalued, right? Oversexed. King David was oversexed and undervalued a lot because of being so. You don't believe so? King David, David, his name being beloved, and still being son of David, and still being a man after Elohim's own heart. You can be a man or a woman after Elohim's own heart and still be oversexed, and therefore be undervaluing things or be undervalued yourself. Here he is, the king, oversexed to a place to where he saw another man's wife. And even though we don't know, we act like Bathsheba was totally innocent. We don't really know if she was in on or not. Doesn't say that she was forced. Saw somebody over there, said, let's go ahead and bring her over. Led to him killing somebody. Led to his family acting a fool. Led to him almost losing his throne. Led to him almost not having the Messiah come through his line. Right? He was so oversexed that on his deathbed, they were trying to figure out if he was going to be able to live. You know what they did? Can anybody tell me what they did to see if King David was alive in the chat? I'm just wondering. On any of the platforms we're on YouTube, on the podcast, on TikTok today, right? We're short of a platform, even though we might bring him in a little later. Can anybody tell me what they did to see if King David was actually going to make it through? He was on his deathbed. Anybody even know? Show you how oversexed, our society is and how we got to get this together. And just because you're, somebody who's doing well or whatever doesn't mean you can't be oversexed. They brought in a young virgin and they put her in the bed with them to see if he would have sex with her. Because he was so oversexed that that's what he did. He just had sex all the time. So they were like, "Yo," and then when he didn't sleep with her, they said, "Surely the king is dead." That's how wild it was. That's how oversexed he was. They were like, "Yo, David won't sleep with this girl. Surely the king is dead. He must not be moving." Right? That's how wild it was, right? And now think about the fact. So now when you see King Solomon and you go, "Well, he brought in this and that." Well, that's what he grew up on. His daddy oversexed, undervalued, and it started to make it to where he undervalued the kingdom. Don't ever trick yourself into a place to where you will not fall for, or well, I'm not saying you can't fall. We should be in a place to where we don't fall. And we're going to give some things to talk about how we get out of that. But I'm saying don't ever bring yourself to a place to where you don't recognize. You might not be of the world. You're still in it. You still got to deal with it. And don't ever get to a point to where you start looking at things and forget that part of what the allure of this world is to get you to drop what marriage is. That's why we talk about marriage so much. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. We have to talk about marriage. We have to talk about marriage. Why do we have to talk about marriage? We got to talk about marriage because if we don't talk about marriage, it's one of the things that causes their society to crumble. If you want to look at when Greece fell, when the Assyrians lost it, when the Kemetic people lost it, when Cushitic people lost it, right? Even though Cush was still an empire for a while and isn't even considered to be the power it was, but still, when they lost some of the stuff that they had, when Turkey lost power, when England lost power, when France lost power, when Spain lost power, right? You know, when we talk about somebody who's on from Mexico, right? Mexico, we know that, Mexico started with the Aztecs. What happened when the Aztecs lost power? Then what happened when the Spanish lost power? What happened when Mexico lost some of her lands and stuff like that? If you look at and study all these things, you'll start seeing that roles being undervalued, roles being put to the side are things that started to cause a lot of mess, and whole cultures, whole communities, whole world powers crumble. Why are people talking about America crumbling? What's one of the things you point to? Lack of marriage, oversexed, undervalued. Who is the Most High? Do you care about the Most High? Oversexed, undervalued. Even to a place to where now we undervalue even who the person is that we're telling to choose their sex. Think about that. Don't be who the Most High created you to be, which is the most powerful thing that you could ever be. Tell us who you want to be outside of what he created you to be. Think about that. Oversexed, undervalued. We don't care about who you are. We want you to just tell us how you'll have sex. Don't don't put what ultimately will say what marriage is on the birth certificate. Don't put that when the person is born so that they can be trained from birth that you're working towards who you were called to be. Don't put that on the birth certificate. Make sure that you leave that open so that the person later on can say they can be whatever they would like to be, even if it's one of the worst things they could be. Right? We live in a society that says do not, like we talk about be not conformed to this world. They don't even want you to be conformed to yourself. They say all women are women, and they're saying that therefore trans women should be able to beat the brakes off you in a boxing match, and you should support it because that means that they're competing as a woman by beating women. Now, if a man is married to a woman, so to speak, right? If they say that you're a cis male married to a cis female or whatever, and that cis male beats the brakes off of cis female, then we should arrest that cis male because how dare it? But if we license you to fight, then it should be okay for a non-cis male to beat up a cis female because he identifies not really as a non-cis male. He identifies as at least at the moment, he's a trans woman. So he can beat her up as long as he's dressed like a woman. You see, we're dealing with some things, right? I'm not saying that all trans women deserve to go to hell. I'm not even doing that. I'm saying that we got to see something's not clicking right, right? Like something doesn't seem to be making sense. Somebody help me here. So if there's a brother out there who decides that he will dress like a woman and take some kind of and say he's a woman and he'll take some kind of hormones to ensure that he's meeting a certain criteria, even though all of his muscles and everything still say he's a man. It's okay for him to hit her in a ring. But if there's a brother out there who gets mad at his woman and hits her at the house, one is wrong and one is okay. We have to get to a place where we start having a thought process and a conversation concerning this stuff or whatever. You know, we have to get to a place where we recognize like something is going on, right? Because we won't deal with what sex is marriage, marriage is sex. We won't deal with that. We won't talk about that. We won't be honest about that, right? Sex is important because sex is what two people become one. See, we're trying to make sex something that's undervalued. Like, or I'm sorry, we're oversexed to the point to where it's like we're married so much that, hey, let's even change what marriage is. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. We're oversexed as a society and undervalued. Do you know what? I know people. Real talk, right? And I don't care if anybody gonna try and make this into a thing that makes me bad or this and that or whatever, tries to make me whatever, like, be ad hominem if you want. I know guys who've been to prison, have been to jail, for years, and were oversexed before they went in. They'll tell you that they were oversexed before they went in. I've said what we're talking about over and over again. We're oversexed, undervalued. All right, there you go. So you said marriage is a modern construct. No, it's not. No, it's not. Marriage in ancient times is something that was around, right? And by the way, even if you get married today, the problem is you're trying to get married through a corporation instead of married. You really don't even know what marriage is. Like, you don't have to go to a state to be married, right? And I'm not just talking about common law marriage. You can legit just write out your own contract and you can say what it is that both of y'all want on the contract. If I marry somebody, because I marry people, if I marry somebody, I suggest to them don't go through the state because your contract is usually more powerful than what the Constitution could ever get. You said, yes, it is. Okay. Well, that's what your thing is. In my culture, right? In my tribe, we've been married for quite some time, for thousands of years, and we don't look at marriage as dating. See, we don't do dating. Dating is a modern social construct, right? Dating is a modern social construct. Like, but you can, but like I said, I'm coming to a cultural concept. If you decide to take on a Western construction of something that says that you can kind of do whatever you want, or you have to be governed by the state, then by all means, yeah, you are in a new type of thing. Like if you're a United States citizen, you are in a new type of thing. If you're in Europe, right, for the most part, I'd say, well, even in Spain, because Spain changed the power structure. So yeah, you're in a new type of thing. If you're talking about contracts and things like that and stuff like that, and people knowing exactly what their role is and things of that nature, and us studying and being trained to be husbands and wives and having to be actually labeled and trained as a husband or wife before we get married. That's something different. You said also, ancient indigenous people recognize the third gender. First of all, the word gender doesn't mean, so that gender and sex don't mean the same thing, right? Even if you're talking about sex as far as male and female. Gender or jancha literally means, right? If we're going to use that term correctly, because those native tribes wouldn't even call it gender. So we got to be careful. Even people who say that we recognize the third one or this and that, they didn't use the word gender. It's like when people say God. A God is not the same as Elohim. A God is not the same as a Netcher. A God is not the same as a deist or a deity. Those are all different things with all different cultural perspectives. Nevertheless, though, let's play that game. If we're going to talk about gender, genre, right? Genre, right? Gender is just the style that cultures have for their males and females. If we're using it specifically for sex or marriage, there's a style that comes with it. For example, why is there such thing as platonic relationships? Right? If you don't mind my asking, right? Why is there such thing as a platonic relationship? If you don't mind my asking, is it where's the cheese? Is that the name? Right? Why is there such thing as a platonic relationship? Do you know what that is? See, that's a gender. You don't know that. We don't know that, but that's actually a gender by definition. It's a style. No, platonic doesn't come. Well, platonic, yes, is because of the way Plato thought, but that's not quite correct. What happened is that Plato's thoughts on marriage is he said that the worst relationship one could have would be a male and a female being married. That's what he believed. Why? Because he believed that the best relationship one could have would be a 40-something-year-old male with a preteen boy. And if you had a wife, okay, you just have her so that you can make sure that humanity keeps going. But that's all she's good for. So anybody with a platonic relationship was one who had a relationship like Plato said. Yes, you thought like Plato, specifically in your relationships. So if you're talking about platonic relationships, you don't have a platonic relationship unless you're a guy who thinks it's okay to have sex with a 12-year-old boy. That's his genre. That's his gender. Now, somebody would come and argue, which some people have tried, right? Some people try to argue, hey, that's what we feel. You got to let us in. That's why you got LGBTQIAP before B. That last B, that P, look it up and see what it stands for, and see there's even cases in Canada in which judges have supported that narrative, and people in America have tried. It hasn't been successful on this side yet, but it's making its way. And I'm not saying that everybody who's LGBTQ plus has to fall into that narrative. What I'm saying is that we don't comprehend what gender or genre or style is. If you're going to talk about etymology, you're going to tell me these things, then I would just ask, that you would give me a little bit of leeway to think that possibly I've studied these things and I might know about some of this a little bit. Just like you obviously know a lot of it, I might know just enough. I might not know as much as you know, but what I know, right? He that doesn't know that he doesn't know is a fool, shun him. He that knows that he does not know is teachable, teach him. So maybe you can teach me, but also he that knows what he knows, follow him on the things that I know, I promise you, I'm not going to give you something that is just something random, or I read one book, or I looked on one Google platform, or I went to a library for a week and I think I'm an expert, you know? So but if you look up gender, that's what gender is. So if you're going to talk about those things, gender is the style of tribe to tribe. So yeah, you got some tribes out there that say that there's a third gender, which by the way doesn't mean that they were talking about that they believe that you could be whatever you want and that a man could have a baby, or that blah blah, or this and that, or that there might be a tribe out there, but that's not the norm for tribes in general. And if we're going to talk about a tribe, then okay, fine, yeah, there's a tribe out there. If you look for there's I hang around real husbands who try to make sure that their husband's the one wife. But I promise you, if you look hard enough, there's probably one of them out there who cheats or does something. It doesn't mean that my belief is that all people should cheat because there's one guy doing it. You said, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that well, you said you came in late. What I'm saying is that we are undersexed and undervalued, or we are oversexed, excuse me, and undervalued as people in general, period. And what I was saying after that, after you came in, that you've heard me say is at least listen long enough, right? And if you can't do that because you've asked me to listen, you're looking for me, you're making comments, you need to make sure I don't know what I know what I'm saying. So, right, without actually knowing what I'm talking about, you just came in and you're automatically saying, you're wrong, you don't know this. What about natives? What about these people? Platonic means this, blah, blah, blah. They don't even know the direction I'm going. That's what I'm saying, right? I think I'm clear on that. That's what I'm saying. I haven't changed anything, right? And if you want to look at the recording of it, that's what I've been saying. But we're once again oversexed, undervalued, and we don't value, right? We don't value even the humanity, right? We don't value even the humanity piece, right? Well, that's great. My father lost his wife, lost my mother 20 years ago, and he still hasn't gone out on a date. That's great. That doesn't necessarily have to be anybody else's stance. That's just, the culture I'm raised by, right? So, that's the faithfulness that we try to have. But what I'm trying to say is we're oversexed and undervalued. Sex is more of an argument than the value of humanity. Rather than if you get the value of humanity, then sex fits where it's supposed to fit. That's the fight that you're having. The fight that we're having with each other, which we shouldn't have if we say that we should make the main thing, right? If we're saying that we should make the main thing, then we should look at the value of humanity. What is being oversexed? What is telling children that they have a right, even not being fully formed? See, it's very interesting to me, right? One of the arguments, and by the way, I'm not mad at it per se, but one of the arguments people have when they say you shouldn't, bring a woman up to a room, right? If she's 20 something, they say a woman's brain is not fully, grown, at least to 25, maybe even to 30, something like that. So they'll say, if a woman says she wants to have sex with you, and then she turns around and says that you RAP, her. Um, then they say you should you should realize that that's what you did. She's always right, and her brain's not fully normal. So they'll say that if you do that, that you should go to jail. However, they'll tell you that a 1 or 2 year old should have a fully functioning brain and should be able to tell you what they are sexually because we're oversexed and undervalued. You see, there are people that are starting to come out and say it. You can go research it if you want, right? You can just you know, type in RAP, case, woman's brain undeveloped or something like that. I'm pretty sure you'll find some things, right? Or just look it up on YouTube, read an article on it, whatever it is that you want to do, right? I'm not here to tell you every single place or who said or who exactly said. Like, look it up, right? Not everything, you know. You're telling me some things, and when you put it in the chat, you don't say you have to look it up at this place, that place. Okay, well, if that's what you're doing, cheese, that's pretty cheesy. Go ahead and have a great day. Like, we don't have time for it. Like, you're not the only person on here, but there's a place of like we have to recognize, that there's this stuff is out. Like this stuff is out there already, and we have to be in a position to recognize what's going on, right? Like the same thing I just said. We have to even be willing to do that, right? But what I'm saying is that okay, yeah, our experiences and life also play a role in our developmental growth. Sure. What I'm saying is this society, because you're so undervalued and oversexed, this society will say that the 2 year old should be able to choose who they are. How does that happen? Like what society today? Only a society that's nihilistic, that doesn't believe in morality, right? There's no moral compass. Like one, and when is too young, by the way. See, like when is too young? When is too young? When is the right age for somebody to start telling you that they're not what they are? This is more of the question that we should ask, even though people don't like that question. I'm sorry, you said that was generational curse passed down from David to Solomon. Oh yeah, earlier when we were talking about. Sorry about the Minister Tamara, I just saw it. But like when is the right age to tell somebody that they should be oversexed, and when's the right age to undervalue them? Salah. When is the right age? When is the correct age to tell somebody that it's okay to start thinking about sex too much and undervaluing who you are? When is the correct age for that? I mean, that's a question I would have. The person that came on, whatever their name was, something cheese or whatever, and came on and everything was a question. The question I would pose to people like that: when is the right age to not be who you are, to undervalue yourself? Right? When is the wrong age to say be in your work, so that you will be in your work? I said this yesterday for those that were on the men's meeting, right? That if people sometimes don't move, right? We had a couple of people on said some great things, and some of the brothers were speaking some great things, right? And I said we were talking about moving. Stop being so hesitant. Stop waiting. The sisters are doing this, the sisters doing that. Like, when do we step up? Blah blah, right? And we started saying, basically having a conversation in which the end of it, I said, like, look, we already got a bunch of stuff that's going on, and we have an environment set up where you can be a leader inside said environment, right? And all you got to do is do something, right? As a man, do something. We are supposed to provide something, some kind of foundation, some kind of leadership, some kind of making sure our women feel protected and nurtured and secure. And if you get in the habit of doing something as a man now, what you're going to find out is the percentage always stays the same, but the amount that you give can increase, right? So, like, for example, somebody giving a tithe, there are times when 20 cents might have been my tithe because that's all I made on the street. Or when I was working 9 to 5, you only get paid every 2 weeks, and I ain't make no money, I legit might only have 20 cents or give my full $2 or whatever, because that's all I made. That's all I got. And I might give it. Right. But if I was willing to give, all of my $2, what I found is the percentage didn't change. When I got better, now it went from 100% being $2 to 100% might be 200. If I still can't pay no bills with 200, I find myself still giving 200, and I found that I started getting huge blessings in return. Right? I didn't start giving something different just because. I'm sorry, there's somebody trying to call in on a podcast. We won't be able to necessarily have you on a huge long time, but if you'd like to be able to call it, if you got a brief question, a brief comment, concern, you can feel free. We're talking about specifically today, reminder, we're talking about being oversexed and undervalued. But if you'd like to be able to come on, we got you on. Is it Christopher? Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast. Did you have a question, comment, or concern? Oh, okay. Well, as far as joining the group, and okay, well, as far as joining up with this, all you have to do is look on the well, if you're on the podcast, if you look in our on any of the episodes, including this one, if you look in the description with the video, it has information on how you can get in contact with us, and even the number. Well, if you're in which where are you at? Where do you live at? Oh, okay, in Ghana. What part of Ghana? Oh, okay. All right. So we were more so. Well, I'm not there now, but we were more so like, yeah. When we've gone there, we've been in more like Millennium City, Accra, Super Accra, places like that. So yeah, we did a little bit in like the Bread Coast and Gold Coast and stuff like that. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for being on. Uh, we will definitely. So if you can, just look up the information. We have the website on, and we also have if you can, we also have our email on. If you're able to email us, and we can make sure that we set up something where we can get in contact with you and have a longer conversation. But thank you for the call. We appreciate it. So, um, so yeah, so these are things that we're able to deal with, we're able to talk about, we're able to respond to, and we are, once again, a lot of us are oversexed and undervalued, right? And since we are oversexed and undervalued, we do a lot of things that undervalued people do, you know. So since we are oversexed and undervalued, we do a lot of things that undervalued people do. And it's time for us to, like we were talking about, so where was I at the male perspective, right? So do something, and that percentage will grow, right? So if you can only give 20 minutes right now, I think we can always find more time for prayer, things like that. But my example was like, if you can only give 20 minutes for prayer, give 20, do that 20 minutes diligently, and you'll find that when you get more time, or when you have your own business, or when you have more help and you can actually relax some, you'll find that when you have more time, your time grows, not because you're going to invest more percentage of time, but because when your percentage grows, you'll be faithful to that percentage. And it's the same thing. Like if we could stop having so much percentage that we're given, because what happens is it's like with money, right? Power, money, and sex. If you want to see who somebody is, you offer them money, offer them power, offer them sex, and see what they do, right? And if you want to see, right, and what happens is a lot of people don't have that much time to give, right? Or they don't have that much ability to invest, or they don't even have women that like them or whatever, right? Nerds in high school, nobody wants you. You don't get no play. You focus on your grades. All of a sudden, you become a doctor, though, and now you get all the play, right? But you were never disciplined. People think just because I didn't have to deal with it, so I didn't grow up with it. So that means that, since I didn't have sex, when I was young, this and that or whatever. I didn't have sex before marriage, blah, blah. All right, now after you're married, you still ain't making no money, but all of a sudden you start making money. Now you got access to power. Now you got access to sex. Will you still be faithful? See, because you might not have been disciplined. Just because you didn't grow up with it doesn't mean that you are actually a disciple or you were disciplined. Just because you didn't have to worry about that as often as other people did doesn't mean that you're disciplined in it. Right. And we live in a society that there's no discipline. See, you grew up being oversexed. Even if you didn't experience the sex, you still saw the cool people, they have sex. You still saw, you know, even on stuff like Dragon Ball Z, sexual innuendo, stuff like that. If you grew up in a certain age range of Dragon Ball or whatever, right, you still saw different things that you grew up with. Right? Being oversexed and undervalued. Being oversexed and undervalued. Being what? Oversexed and undervalued. You know, we have an issue where people are dealing with we're not willing to deal with it right now. Here's the thing as far as percentage, because I don't want to leave that alone because it might be confusing where I left it. Here's another thing about the percentage piece. If you would begin to value your work. So let me talk to the brothers real quick. Sisters, you can hear this too, right? But this is more so a brother thing. Before we start talking about what the woman needs to do and how she presents herself and you being a high value man and some of this red pill rhetoric that's out. Some of it is real, some of it's not so much. Before we go there though, what is your work? Young man or old man or man, whatever you want to call yourself, husband, etc. What is your work? Not your job. What is your work? What do you do that increases the value of the diaspora, of your people, of your community, of the kingdom? What is your work? Because before you can even begin to look for a wife, a husband must have work. Any man that does not have a work is not worthy of a wife. Because if you don't have a work, you don't have a vision. If you don't have a vision, then what can she help you with? For those of you that only see help me and you think help me means she's just supposed to help you, that's even limited too. But all right, if we're going to go there, what is she supposed to help you with if there is no mission, if there is no vision? I'm not talking about your 9 to 5. She should help you with that too. If your 9 to 5 helps ultimately with the mission and the vision. If you come with no work, see, but that's being undervalued. We don't value husbands. See, the person on earlier talking all this stuff. Well, it's just this and it's that. It's manipulation and it's just a modern social construct. Yes, it is. And da da da. Like, no, stop. Like, marriage is ancient because sex is ancient. Marriage is sex. Sex is marriage. That's ancient, right? That's ancient. That's thousands of years old, right? But what's new is people saying that I shouldn't even have a work, but I should have marriage or I should have sex. That's new. Did you catch that? That's new right there. That's a new thing. That's that new. You know, that's not even new. That's that new stuff. That's that new product. Like you ain't even seen that on the market yet. That's still in test phase that we living by. That I shouldn't even have a work or a mission or a vision, but I should have somebody who's not only having sex with me, but should be cooking and cleaning and doing all this. And she should just listen to what I want. If I say she has to go get a job too, she should go get a job. But I should have no vision and no mission. What kind of man are you? You're definitely not a husband, for sure. All right, Hasinia, thank you very much. Hasinia, is you go Ayarinas? Is that correct? I don't know if that's correct, but thank you for being on. Have a great day, Pasi Madia. Like, look, what kind of stuff are we on? You said you tell your sons they're established. If they're not established, then they have no business trying to get, women. Yeah, like that's that new. De nada, right? Adios. That's that new thing, right? That's that new, right? Like, what makes you think that you should have no mission, no vision, no goals, No business, even if you don't got the business stuff like that, at least where is the vision? Where is the mission? Is it plain so that she can come by and read it upon the tablets and be able to add what it is that she provides? No mission, no vision. Why? Because you're undervalued. You undervalue the ability to bring yourself. You think that all you have is your sex, male, female. Your sex. What do you do in the bedroom? And I cannot totally blame a lot of our brethren for this. If I be honest, thank you for the love, Sister Shantae. I cannot totally blame our brethren for this. I cannot totally blame my brethren for this. How you doing, Keytroy? Why? Because if we keep it a thou, hey, one of the only places that men are valued by women is in the bedroom. A woman will look you in the face and tell you you ain't no man, but then when it's time to flip her over away from her face, now you the man. Sorry to say it that way, right? But real talk. Like, he can't be a man. You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell. I got my own car. I got my own clothes. I got my own food. I got my own this. I'm strong. I'm independent. Can't no man tell me nothing. Can't no woman tell me nothing. Even my mama don't talk to me like that. Blah, blah. Okay, but what is his value? But then when it's time to have them babies, when it's time to have sex, when it's time to have revenge sex, when it's time to have what do we even call it? Makeup sex, all these different things. Now all of a sudden he's valued. But if you ain't gonna listen to me or nothing else, and I don't have no value in nothing else, and I just happen to be in the same house, you happen to be in the same house, then why would I not think that I'm undervalued? And why would I not be great at sex? Little boys out here, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys can have sex, can make somebody feel great. So if the little boy has the same value, if the 15-year-old has the same value as a 35-year-old, then why are you looking for a real man? Where you going? Where they do that at? Where you find that at? And I'm not saying that's everybody on here. I'm just saying this is what we're dealing with. Let's keep it 100. Thank you for the love, Sister Deja. Let's keep it 100. I can't fully blame somebody if he's been raised in a society where he won't be listened to. Now, when he was a little boy, mama loved him as a little boy. And his mama really will love him no matter what. But then he became a man and he realized that, I guess I'm supposed to do this and that or whatever. Some of us raised without dads. Daddy didn't show me this. Daddy didn't do that. I didn't look a real man in the face. Nobody ever challenged me in certain areas. Thanks for the love, Ransom. And so here I am trying to figure this out on my own. And I got this woman that looks me in the eye, and she wasn't raised with no daddy either. She coming out of a bad relationship. She coming out of divorce after divorce after divorce. And even if she don't call it divorce, if you was having sex with all them sexual partners, that was divorce after divorce after divorce after divorce. But she gonna look me in the eye and tell me you ain't no real man. What do we do about that? We're undervaluing each other, but we're oversexed. Won't even deal with the fact that possibly part of the problem is that before you get to the sex, maybe you should value what a husband and a wife is. We're oversexed, undervalued. I'm going to keep repeating that over and over again because we got to get there. Right? One of the issues that we're having is like, look, Willie Lynch told us this, like, and now you got black people doing what he said we would do. He said, if we put this in place, he said they will start to do it themselves. We won't even have to do it. Black people will do it against themselves. Right? Israel will do it against ourselves. Generational curses. Start reading the Deuteronomy 28, verse 54, and keep on going on down the list. How we're tender, we're unprepared, and that causes us to be against our brothers, against our wives, against our children, and think that we're trapped in this. And now our women begin to go against us, they go against themselves, they go against their babies, and they begin to believe that they're trapped. And now your children will continue the same process. Willie Lynch said the same thing. He said, if we can get women to stop being wives and mothers and turn into, or not, they'll be mothers, but we can stop having them actually be in a position where they feel secure and they feel independent. He said that we're on to something. He said that men go around and where they only have sex with women, they breed, but they don't get married, right? They breed, but they don't have valuable relationships. Then guess what? We're on to something. He said if they ever reverse that, he said they reverse the curse. If you're going to be a curse breaker, you got to be willing to reverse the curse, right? What can we start doing to make sure that sex is not valued more than what it's supposed to be? See, some people have relationships right now to where if you didn't have sex for 2 weeks, you would think that your marriage was in trouble. Some of us right now, if you didn't have sex with your partner or your spouse or whatever, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, you would think that y'all was in trouble if y'all didn't have sex for 2 weeks. You can't even fast from sex. You fiend for it. You lust for it. You lust for the things because you've been told that this is what's going to make you great, and your body is addicted to the endorphin, to the same things that happen when you get a drug high or get that sugar rush. You get that rush during your orgasmic experience, and then you're looking for that rather than looking for if somebody deserves to even be allowed to enter into you, into covenant with you, and allow you to feel that. We got a problem. Humble King of Kings said, me and my wife did like that and then had the vision. I seen heaven in their eyes, and we left out to death do us part. All right. Yeah. You said too many husbands, too many wives, not submitted to anyone or your husband. Most deaf. Thank you, Sister Kimberly. Thank you, Sister Bree. You said no such thing as courses, just bad decisions. No such things as courses. What do you mean no such thing as courses? Curses? Oh, okay. Well, if you don't believe that there's a curse, then I mean that's fine. If that's your position, you stay in that position. That's cool. Right? But I believe that there's generational decisions. Those generational decisions are based upon decisions that you've seen before, and those decisions affect you. And there is something called DNA memory, but maybe you don't believe in that either. So fine, generational decision that somebody saw make those decisions. They thought that those decisions were reality, and so they made the same decisions. And even if they tried to escape those decisions are something that travel, just like the decisions of somebody to eat bad comes to somebody else who decides to eat bad. It comes to somebody else who decides to eat bad. Somebody else will call that a heart attack and say that it's something that's generative or something that's family oriented or whatever. And the reality is no, like if your family eats bad and you eat bad and they eat bad, you're going to have the same result. So either way you want to deal with that, right? Feel free to deal with it in that way. I would say that I believe in a curse, because a curse is when you speak something negative over somebody and you don't really realize what's going on. You can speak a curse, you can tell somebody every day that you ain't nothing, you ain't gonna be nothing, your family ain't nothing, you're gonna be just like your daddy, blah blah. How you doing, chef? You're gonna be this, you ain't nothing, you ain't worthy of nothing, you ain't valuable, you ain't this, you ain't that. And if you're gonna tell them that or whatever, at some point they'll believe you. So if that decision you want to say is just becomes a belief, so be it, right? I think that's cursed though. I think that we shouldn't curse people. I think we shouldn't speak over them like that. If you feel like that word is wrong, feel free, right? But at the end of the day, right, like we shouldn't do it is the overall point. So if you need to translate curse to something else, I can only come from my culture, right? And so if you're going to, well, I can't say I can only, but that's my choice, is to speak and represent where I come from and who I come from, right? So if you are going to be in this position to where like, you said, nah, for real, only a strong one, brush that off. Okay. So, if you're going to be in that position, you have to be in a position where you say, all right, like I must, like, we have to start realizing that like something has happened that's undervalued us, right? We have to recognize that massa ain't in charge anymore, right? You have a choice. You don't have to live in Deuteronomy 28 verses 15 to 68. You can live in Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. If you don't get that reference, right, then you don't have to, just because there is a curse doesn't mean you have to adhere to it. You don't have to give it permission to live and to reside in your life. You don't have to do that. The choice is yours. Thank you, Sister Sharice. Thank you, Sister Deja. You don't have to do those things. If you choose to do it, but you don't have to. Now, I agree with that part of the decisions, because just because there's a curse doesn't mean you have to adhere to it, right? Just because you're born, just because there's a baby that's born in prison, it doesn't mean that that baby has to grow up and go back to prison. Unfortunately, though, if they were born in prison, they might be in a situation where they end up because of choices that were made. But yeah, just because that baby's born there, especially if they can get better information. Thank you, Minister Tamara. We don't have to stay in the same place. It is a choice. I agree with that much. You don't have to choose to stay cursed. You know, Just because something is cursed doesn't mean, even in movies where they talk about that, even though movies are obviously exaggerations of things, but even in the movies you watch, the goal, if something's cursed, the goal by the end of the movie usually is to hopefully get out of the curse. There you go, break the copy. You don't have to copy what everybody else is doing. And if you're gonna copy what people are doing, at least for sure, make sure it's a blessing and not a curse. But there's certain things that are commanded upon thee. That's why the Bible says that he will command the blessing on you. There's certain things you can do where it's just a command, natural law, universal law, kingdom law, marital law, law of attraction, law of first mention. There's certain things that just command, a demand that you will be blessed. But you got to value yourself. And that's one of the things that's missing. We are oversexed, undervalued, right? Oversexed, undervalued. And if we're going to once again go back to a place where we're teaching these babies that it's okay to start focusing on their sex before they even are close to puberty, what in the world are we doing? That was the main point and the main goal of what was being said, right? And so if we love our children, recognize that your children, if you love your grandchildren, recognize them grandbabies are dealing with a society that says that sex sells. And so sex sells everything. Sex sells education. Make sure that you get somebody that looks nice and all that stuff and looks a certain way or whatever, and show them that, yeah, they can go ahead and go to college and get an education. Sex sells wrestling. And think about how perverted that is, because not only do you go and look at women like that, you will go and look at almost buck naked men. I mean, I know I ain't trying to mess up nobody, but hey, when you were watching Ric Flair, when he was supposed to be a bad guy, right? He wore the frilly robe, not because it was a great thing. Back in the day, right? If you were somebody, because he got his thing from somebody else who was named Ric Flair, right? Or not Ric Flair, sorry, that was named the Nature Boy. There was a Nature Boy before him, if you know about wrestling history, right? A lot of y'all probably, I lost you for a second. But if you know about like professional wrestling history, there was another Nature Boy that existed before Ric Flair, and he wore robes too. The reason why both of them wore robes is because that to be homosexual was to go outside of roles. And so if you went outside of roles, that would get you booed. And so to get you booed, you put on a robe, a woman's robe in flamboyant colors, right? And you did that because they said, oh, well, if he's doing that, he's against traditional family values. He's against this. He's against that. So we got to boo him. That's why if you go into those of you who might have grown up with around, they call it the Attitude Era or whatever, right? And Gold Dust. And he was that dude wearing frilly robes. He had his face painted. He was supposed to be, and well, eventually they said androgynous. Really, at first he was supposed to be gay, right, and or at least bi. And he would do the whole like, he'd do this thing, right, and come out, and people would freak out and boo him. If you even study some of the stuff, they haven't changed. I know that you think they've changed, but I think, what is it called, NXT? And there was a guy, he's not on there anymore because he got in trouble for messing around with underage girls. But he played a character, and he was supposed to be same thing. He was from, matter of fact, it hurt my heart because he's from DC. But if you know about DC, you know some of that stuff is there, including the way he was acting in front of people. But he was, I forget what he was called, black guy. I forget what he was called, but anyways, whatever his name was, he just from a couple years ago, and doing the same thing, wearing long hoop earrings and stuff. The Dream, something, whatever his name was, but he was in WWE. NXT is supposed to be like their developmental brand, and then you go from there to like the big time. And so before he got his big time shot, he got caught and stuff. But he was, but he was out there dealing with those things. And putting that stuff out there because people would boo him because he had a non-traditional role. So even when people say, oh, they don't do it anymore, like, yeah, they do that stuff. They comprehend that those things, like, yeah, people who are oversexed are to be booed, and something in you still boos just because. What's up with that, right? But we see it all the time, and you'll watch wrestlers buck naked, just about legit, right? Like basically they got on underwear. They call them wrestling I got on my wrestling shorts or my tights or whatever. No, no, like, bro, like, you buck naked out here. You got on tape. You are on tape on your wrist so you can grab somebody's wrist and stuff like that. You got on wrestling boots to make sure that you don't twist no ankles and stuff like that, or hurt your feet on the places you're going. And then you got on underwear. And we're so oversexed that we don't see a problem with it. Like, we don't even see a problem with it. Matter of fact, we can't wait to see what they're going to wear. I'm not even saying it's bad to be feminine or anything, but I'm serious. Like, people are watching WrestleMania, right? Or whatever your AEW, All Elite, whatever stuff is. I don't know what it is, all these places, right? Or if you're watching in Japan, New Japan, and what is it, NJPW or whatever it is, all the stuff that's out. I don't keep up with it as much as I used to anymore. I try to stay aware of it, but I don't know all the names anymore. But legit people are like, guys, grown men are like, I wonder what Rey Mysterio is going to wear this year, right? I wonder what Seth Rollins is going to wear. I wonder what Jon Moxley's going to wear. I wonder what, oh, wow, Stone Cold Steve Austin's coming back. Will he actually show his chest, or will he have on a t-shirt? like, excuse me. We have all these different things going on, and yet don't realize how oversexed we are and undervalued we are. I told you there was a guy that I know, he went to prison, and he said how oversexed he was before he got to prison. And he said, so he never was the guy that got what, but he said he said he had, sex in prison with guys. He said because he was always having sex out there in the street. And so, hey, the closest thing you're gonna get, he's like, after a while, you still oversexed, so you masturbating and doing this and doing that or whatever. He said after a while, you ain't gonna get out for years. So he said, yeah. Even that has a lot to do with being oversexed and undervalued. Think about it. That's the ultimate oversexed, undervalued. We put you in an animal cell. We put you in an animal cell. And then we take people who are out here oversexed, we know they are, and we allow them, as much as we say you got to have a uniform and stuff. No, we allow them to sag their pants. That's where the sag the pants thing came from. We allow them to sag their pants, to say they belong to somebody. We allow them to be able to put on makeup and stuff. We allow them to get their hair done in certain things, right? We're not going to allow them to be able to talk to their families, but we'll allow them to have sex one with another. Oversexed and undervalued. Like, that's what we're dealing in. And then you get to a point where, yeah, like, it's okay. And people who be in there, it's okay. And hey, that's what it's supposed to be. Like, no, it's you've been put in a position where you're undervalued. They value sex more than they value you. Think about it. I want you to, if you're not getting that, I want you to get that right. They value sex more than they value you. I'm sorry if I'm not getting to the comments as much as I normally do right now, especially today. But I need you to comprehend, this society values sex more than it values you. You hear what I'm saying? Somebody get that. Like, if you like, and you've got to be aware of that, which means that your children are going through the same society. They value sex more than they value your children. That's why they will not teach your children the truth. They will not teach your children the truth, but will tell your child to tell them what sex they are. Exactly. They value the creation more than the creator, right? They value, but they right the same way. They will value the sex more than they value the child. You are living in this right now, all day, every day, and we've got to be honest about it, and we got to start calling it out. Like, gone are the days where that was okay. Gone are the days where we're going to act like that's just, it is what it is. No. Right? If you got babies that are listening or whatever, or you want them babies to come around and listen, or they want them to listen to this part of the recording, whatever, like, no. Right? We're not teaching that. I need you to understand, if there's any babies that are here, sometimes the babies be on here. If you hear the sound of my voice, right? Sex is not important than who you are. Okay? It's not. It's not more important than who you are. Right? That video game is not more important than who you are. That video game is there to teach you about sex. Oh, I know you don't think so. And the parents don't think so, but your parents, you know that your parents don't even know what you're playing. Let's keep it at 100, right? And this is about at the minute 24, the hour 24 sets part. If you looking for this on YouTube, your parents don't know what you're playing. You know that. Your parents, if your parents knew what God of War was, they would have a problem, right? If your parents saw, right? If your parents saw some of them outfits that you be making up on your characters, they would have a problem. If your parents really understood who the Undertaker was in WWE, getting back to that, right? They would have a problem. And matter of fact, your parents don't even see the games that you play because a lot of times you play them at school or somebody else's device, or if you go into the store with your allowance, you buy the game, you put it in your your Switch and all that stuff. They don't know what you playing. Right. If my parents really understood how much Chun-Li and then eventually Cammy and other people like that were going to be an influence, and the girls from Tekken, to where when they jumping up and down and doing their move and stuff, or you talk about Melina and well, even Melina's face, some people say whatever, but Melina's and the Katanas and all these people and the Sonyas and all these people doing this stuff and wear these top outfits that you see there, even the forearm girl, I can't remember her name, girl's niece or whatever daughter, whatever she was. Like, and you see all these things, like that. This is stuff that they're pouring into you all the time, right? Like they're putting this stuff right there. Like my son, when he's on YouTube, I got to do drive-bys, so to speak. I got to every once in a while, just randomly, like even if I don't feel like it, I got to stop what I'm doing somewhere in the house and legit find what he's playing, find what he's watching, because somebody has thrown something in there that's crazy, and it'll suggest it on YouTube. It will suggest stuff for little children. I've seen stuff on there where it will suggest for the child that watches because people pervert it. So the child who's playing, I don't even know what you call it. Not the now everybody's into like whatever the red light, green light, Squid Games thing. But before that, there was like something where everybody was wearing like there was these characters with no arms and leg. They had legs and they wore like these masks, but they came in different colors, and everybody was playing this game with it. But then it would recommend stuff to where like these things were basically like buck naked having sex on YouTube, and it would recommend it just because it was close enough to it. That's the game, right? And they don't value our children enough to make sure that they say, "Hey, man, we can't do this." And by the way, certain things you shouldn't like. They'll take down something on YouTube because I dare talk about vaccination stuff. And the World Health Organization told them, "Hey, take down that YouTube channel." Right? But they can put people out there basically buck naked, or like because it could be scientific. So they'll be like, "Hey, we're going to show women having surgery." About having breast surgery, so you see all the breasts, nothing blacked out, anything. They got videos of girls twerking, and some of the girls legit have no bottoms on where they're twerking, and it's not even covered. Like they'll put the cover up, and you can see sphincter to vagina to the gooch to whatever words y'all got for it. You can see everything, but it's there. Oh yeah, Disney. Yeah, of course. I have somewhere. I don't know where it is now. Hopefully, well, my father might throw it away because he put everything on DVD. But we had VHSs, and I remember the VHS that had the big penis on the front for the Little Mermaid. And I remember the scene that the preacher, they make him look like he's excited, even though technically he's kind of sitting down. But they make him, or his knees are protruding out, but they make it look like he's got a Woody or something like that. Well, the Disney and the government, whether you believe the CIA is with them or not, Disney has always been attached to making sure that the United States corporation does well because Walt Disney was attached to that, and it's his company. So it's always been that. Don't forget that Walt Disney and them didn't like black folk and didn't like Jewish people to the point to where they had Donald Duck dressed like Hitler, speaking in German. What do you think that did to a bunch of children that saw their childhood, hero or childhood person that they like to laugh at or whatever, and they thought it was acceptable? That's a whole generation of them supposedly fighting against Nazis, but watching Donald Duck dressed like one. right? What do you think it did? What do you think it did to people who grew up seeing Looney Tunes? See, we don't think about this anymore, but there's a reason why they wore white gloves. There's the same reason why your ushers in your churches wear white gloves. I'm sorry, Shalom, Miss Mac. I didn't catch you on the podcast. How you doing? Um, like, there's a reason why, right? Why do you wear white gloves in churches today? Why do you wear white gloves when you do communion? Why do you wear white gloves when you take the offering plate around? You think it's just because as you're supposed to do it. You don't even think about the fact that white means purity. Now, who taught you that? Who taught you, first of all, that white was a color? And then secondly, who told you that lack of color is purity? Thirdly, why do you think they taught you that? Because during times of chattel slavery, you might have a service where white and black people actually show up at the same church, right? Now, the black people had to sit up in the balconies. Now, those are the places everybody wants to buy. But, the poor folk, they sat in the balconies. And that included black slaves, obviously. And you had some black slaves that got to come down with white folk, but they could only serve. And so when it came time to collect stuff, the servants went around to collect, the ushers. They were black folk. And those black folk had not only to be dressed to the best like they were in the master's house, but they also had to wear white gloves just like they did in the master's house, because you weren't supposed to have a black hand touch a white person's stuff. I'm not saying the balcony is not cool. I'm just telling you what it is, right? So now so now we have this practice that's still here, where you wearing white gloves thinking that, oh, this makes me holy. But the white gloves came into play because black hands weren't supposed to touch white stuff. Why do you put the hand behind your back? You had one hand out, usually your right hand, right out, and a white glove, and then the other hand is behind your back when you're taking communion. Why did you do this? You did this because they didn't want you, since you were a slave, slaves are supposed to steal, so they didn't want you to steal their money. That's where that came from. Like this is what's going on. Like, this is the hypocrisy of not admitting how undervalued you might be. These same people that are oversexed, because these same people would be bred and could be raped. Legit. Right? They could be. Well, as far as being a Moor, I get what you're saying. As far as some of our own threw us in the trash, sure. But also, as Moors, because I'm a Moor too. A Moor doesn't mean, it doesn't have to be a belief system or anything like that. A Moor is talking about us as a people, where we came from and what we did, and when we set up things in Europe, especially in Spain. We did it, and before we called ourselves Moors, or we were called Moors, we were also Carthaginians, before they got rid of that. So for thousands of years, that was up there too. And remember, we gave the people up there, we told them, we even introduced things like slavery and stuff like that. But, it was more so indigenous servitude. But sometimes we even introduced those things, but we were over them, and we gave a lot of people a lot of things, but we didn't give them, we didn't give them a culture. We just told them, oh yeah, take your animals and take them outside, but we didn't give them a culture. We told them, hey, it's important to make sure that you eat a certain way, but we didn't give them a culture, right? And their culture was the problem. The culture was the thing we should have introduced that said, hey, like, don't just eradicate whole nations. That was a cultural thing. Before we got over there, they were doing that. And they still do it to each other now, Russia, Ukraine. Don't forget that Great Britain still exists. It's just not so great. But it's just not England. Great Britain is England, but then the British, which is from the term brutish. So the brutish or the British are still over what? Northern Ireland, right? That's why we say Freederry, not Londonderry, for those that know what I'm talking about. You still got the Welsh. They still got authority over what was the other one I'm forgetting? Just in Europe. Was it Wales, Ireland, and Scotland? Right? We got to give the culture. We got to have the full thing, right? It's like when they talk about chemistry. We showed them chemistry, but we didn't give them the chemet part. So now they just talk about chemistry. A lot of people don't know about that, right? So the whole thing is not about those things, but even in that, we had to get to a place where we even undervalued what we were given. These are people that were totally oversexed, were dying by age 30, having 12, 13 births, but only maybe 2 or 3 children surviving. And then and what they do now is they've got us to undervalue, and they say, oh yeah, it was the dark ages. Everybody was going through this. It's like, we weren't going through that, but we didn't give them culture. If we want to go from that thing, like they give you, oh yeah, everybody was in the dark ages and everybody was doing this. It's like Native American people were, or and people indigenous to the Americas, they were living to be 70, 80, 100 plus years old. People in Africa, but even the parts that they now try to call the Middle East, like they were living to be 100 years old before we dealt with this stuff. People in China were dealing 80, 80 years old or so, hundreds of years old. That some people would say someplace in Africa and in Asia, they said they lived hundreds of years still. There are people today that say that somebody's hundreds of years old, right? That's not us. But we're undervalued, and now we think of breeding and not marriage. We're oversexed. We're so oversexed that we believe that the way to be able to save our nation is to have men have as many wives as possible. Not women, but men. We don't want to go, we don't like Queen and Zingas, but we love King Solomon's. We think that the best way to build our nation is to be as unfaithful as possible. Like, think about how undervalued and oversexed that is. If we could just look, if we want to build our numbers, what we should do is make sure that we have as many people, we just have as much sex and have as many children as possible. And then once we finish having as many people and as children as possible, then we'll be in a better place because we'll be able to teach them. But we ain't even teach you what marriage and sex was. We just told you breed. That's not what sex is. I said Queen and Zinga. Nzinga. That's not even technically how you spell her name, but that's how we probably would say it. But look up Queen Nzinga, who's a great queen, by the way, but definitely had a whole bunch of brothers, right? Until she became Christian at the end, and then got a young brother and said she was doing it because she believed that, the Catholic Roman, was she Roman Catholic? I can't remember if it's Catholic or Protestant, but whatever, she told him to make stuff, she was trying to make stuff nice and neat so that her people who she had fought her whole life for to make sure they were free, she basically at the end says, okay, like, I'll be Roman Catholic, we'll still do what we do, but okay, fine, officially, or I'll have one husband and he'll be this really young boy, that I can have sex with or whatever. Right. So even in our people, we still got some issues, right? But we don't like to talk about it. But you gotta recognize it. And one of the things that we didn't even think about culturally, we taught pieces of the culture to people that were killing each other off and were lacking nutrients. Even if you don't want to talk about just because they're white, because there's a lot of stuff that goes in, like they were lacking nutrients. They weren't eating things correctly. So certain things that you call, like certain things that when you don't eat them and you don't have them in your diet, like magnesium and some other things, I think zinc and some other things, when you don't have those things in your diet and you don't even think those things are necessary, you can actually become what's called bipolar, right? Not what they call bipolar, because everybody's bipolar. Everybody has two polarities. Everybody has a polarity up here and a polarity down there. But we use terms usually just from a Western civilization's mindset, right? So, but they'll say you're bipolar, and bipolar basically is saying you got cognitive dissonance. You got a couple different things personality-wise going on in there. Well, if you don't have magnesium, if you don't have zinc, if you don't have some potassium, but that's not even the one I'm looking for. There's a couple others I'm looking for. But when you're missing certain things out your diet on a regular basis, guess what? You become bipolar. Right? If you want more information on that, look up a YouTube video. Just look up Dr. Africa, Africa with a K. Look up Dr. Africa racism. I think it'll be the first video that pops up. I'll watch it from time to time just to get a review. But yeah, if you're missing certain vitamins are just vital minerals. If you're missing certain nutrients, if there's certain things your body can't even make, so you have to eat them. So if you're not even eating certain things or whatever, and you think that it's about mutton or meat more than it is about pulse or vegetables, like, you'll be in trouble. Right? You're going to be in trouble. I mean, heck, your body needs gold, believe it or not. But we don't even know that, from time to time, you might need to eat gold. You know, like people don't even like some of these rocks out here that you just think are random things or just think are only to be worn. Like your body needs some of those. They taught you that those things are too expensive to be sold to certain people, let alone be ate. So you think that you're not supposed to eat certain minerals. Like a lot of people don't even, don't even recognize, like, we can easily like create salt crystals. Make sure we're on our game as far as that. You know, I mean, this right here. I mean, this all I'm doing. I'm drinking out of this. This is copper. Your body needs it for your magnesium, right? Magnesium is in something like 600 plus, 650, 660 something, whatever it is, 600 plus, enzymes in your body that cause digestion in every part of your body. Well, if you can't find it, I don't know. That's what I put in Dr. Africa, racism. Or if you want to put in his first name, maybe that'll help. LLAIA, and put in Dr. Africa, Dr. Like Africa racism. I don't know if the video is called racism. I just know that probably the first one that pops up, it'll be him in a chemise. Well, he's always in like a tunic or a chemise, but he's got like a little mini fro. Got his glasses. I think he's looking downward. But if you can't find it, maybe I can try and give it to you guys at another time. I can't really put links in these, especially on TikTok. But yeah. So like we don't even comprehend how these things work, but we are so undervalued. But when it comes to sex, which we think is sex, breeding, everybody's all about it, right? Everybody's always about it. Well, that's Dr. Sabi talk. I mean, either way, if Sabi believes or doesn't believe, or other people believe or don't believe in proteins or whatever, where you get them from, as whatever you want to call them. At the end of the day, he might call it something different, but recognize the same thing. I'm not even here to go deep into that, right? That's not even my forte, if I be honest with you. I just know enough to make sure that my family's great. My wife, she's the herbalist, right? That's her business. So, she does what she does. I'm just saying, like, we don't have a mindset. Yeah, Dr. Sabi, he doesn't believe in proteins. There's still other people who are Afrocentric or in natural medicine that would disagree. Like I said, I'm not really here to get into a fight about that. Dr. Sabi opened my eyes to a lot of things, which led me to a lot of people. And I don't mind calling them proteins, but he says that they aren't. Either way, he's talking about the same thing that others are. He might get there a different way, in all honesty, but he's talking about the same thing. But we have to, we have to recognize that once again we undervalue each other and we sexualize each other, right? We undervalue the woman that says, make me feel secure. But then we say, why won't she make sure that she lays down and does what I want her to do in the bedroom? We undervalue the man that says that I don't feel like I am, that I'm respected or heard. But then we say, I'll hear you though, I'll hear you in the bedroom. Matter of fact, in the bedroom, I won't listen to you as a spiritual father, but in the bedroom, I'll call you daddy. Ms. Max said you heard that NASA was sending naked images out into space to entice the aliens. Don't know if it's true or not. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking, I guess. Kind of shocking to hear, but when you think about it, it's kind of cultural. High Kitchen said we don't need meat. We only eat meat because of the seasoning. Nobody eating it without it. Okay. If that's what you choose to do, yeah, where our bodies technically don't need it, right? Because meat, or if you're going to eat meat. By the way, if you're going to, the same thing, and I'm still here, by the way, I got to plug something in real quick, but I'm still here talking, so I apologize. I promise I'll be right back in front of the screen in a second. But even if we're talking about meat eaters or whatever, right? I don't even like saying meat eaters because it makes it sound like you're a T-Rex or something, but I guess you can say you're kind of doing the same thing. But even if we're going to talk about people who eat meat versus people who eat veggies, even if you're eating meat, make sure that you eat meat that's, legal, that's clean, that's eating stuff that is actual, That's eating things that are actually, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Make sure that you're eating meat that is eating things that are there. Like, for example, a lot of people were eating cows for the longest time and didn't realize, so they started telling you that not all cows are grass fed. So, like, the cow that you're eating, the cow needs to be able to have the vitamin minerals and stuff too. But also, if you're going to eat, if you're going to be vegan, recognize that a lot of vegans are not healthy either. If we be honest, like, if we're going to be honest, right? Um, if we're going to put that out there, also make sure that a lot of y'all don't know how your food is grown. Just because you go to a vegan restaurant doesn't mean they know how the food is grown. They're just telling you it's veggies. And people be like, I can look at it, I can tell that it's fresh and blah, blah. No, 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 no. Like, comprehend, if they're not rotating the crops, then you don't know how the food is grown anyway. That's why we suggest grow your own food. But anywhere you go, you're still dealing with the same thing. So a lot of people who are vegan are not getting the iron that they need out of food, especially if you're a woman. That's dangerous. Our women have dangerously low iron levels anyways because we don't eat correctly anyways. But now on top of that, you get like spinach, which is supposed to be extremely great for iron. You can't really. A woman could eat a lot of spinach and still not get the iron that she needs and still be iron deficient because they don't rotate crops anymore. And so the soil that's around is lost nutrients. And a lot of people don't even know, hey, put minerals out there. Some of these pills that you're putting in your body, fine, put them in the ground. Put a little bit of salt out there. Put a little bit of turmeric out in some of this stuff. Like the same way that you would season the food that you eat, season the soil, because the plant is not just getting the sun. The plant is getting the soil. The plant's eating from the soil. The plant's eating from the sun. The plant's eating from the water. The plant's eating from the carbon dioxide. Right? But if you're a man, you shouldn't even necessarily worry about iron unless you're having certain deficiencies show up, because too much iron for a man can actually kill a man. Women need iron, not you, unless you have certain health issues. But yeah, we don't even rotate our crops. So, even in that, we undervalue that. But in not knowing that, I bet you somebody know the difference between missionary and doggy style. You see what I'm saying? Getting back to what the overall goal is, right? I want to stay consistent in this because this is uncomfortable and it's something that we don't like to talk about, and it's easy for us to move away from it. But I want to make sure that we don't go too far away from that. Like, we're talking about the fact that we are oversexed and undervalued. Of course, a woman feels underappreciated if all people are looking at is her cleavage, but the woman knows that people looking at her cleavage might get her a better job. Like, that's the hypocrisy. That's the cognitive dissonance. That's the double minded, right? A guy might know that, hey, there's a woman out there that will love me for me, but he also knows there's a woman out there who has lust issues and will look at my car. It will fetishize my car. It will attach me to the car and might sleep with me. And hey, well, there's no woman that's out there for me anyway. So if I can afford the car, she'll roll with me. That's the cognitive dissonance. That's the double minded. This is the system we're in, where we are oversexed and undervalued, right? Even when you're talking about this stuff, the body of the car. Oh, that's sleek. That car right there, that car is so sexy. When did a car become sexy? When you attach more value in the car than the person you're going to have sex with. Think about these terms that we use. And that car right there, well, that's sexy right there. Oh, I love that sandwich. That sandwich, you see that right there? Ooh, that sandwich, ooh. Like, people talk about food. Oversexed. Oversexed. Oversexed and undervalued. Like, we're in a precarious position. He said, "Amen. I love the way nature works and Yah provides us everything so long as we follow his guidance. He said the land rest every seventh year as our bodies need the 7 days rest. Our land's oversexed and overused. Yeah, you could even talk about that, right? The land overused or undervalued. When's the last time somebody said, I'm gonna let this land rest? We can't let the land rest because we won't have any food. Well, you ain't eating real food anyways. What you talking about? Let it rest. That's a great point, Miss Mac. Thanks for bringing that out. That's the next outstanding point. I'm sorry, what is this? Facts, monetization of angels, slavery. Okay. Check facts. I said that earlier. The food too. Hot dogs symbolize what? Pizza symbolize what? Yeah. I mean, sometimes we go a little crazy with that, I think. But yeah, there's actually some value in seeing that, right? Even if somebody didn't mean to do it on purpose. Once again, if that's your culture shows up. So if you put a hot dog in between two buns, makes sense. I think we go a little too far with that sometimes because we're looking for everything to be something that like we could tear across the thing. Like I love me some Frances Cress Wilson, but she will tell you that she might be going too far, but her whole goal is to make you think. So she might go too far, but she's like, I'm gonna see it in everything because I want you to see. And remember, even in Frances, so for those of you who don't know about Dr. Frances Cress Wilson and things that she put together, like she has a lot of great documentation, a lot of great interviews, has a great book, a great couple of books. I don't know how many books she wrote. I've only read a couple, but and her whole focus is to get you to see how one of the biggest threats to society today is black men being able to have children with white women. Matter of fact, the killer in Buffalo, that's he calls us replacers. He said any person that's on white land, which obviously was our land and is our land, but nevertheless, he says any person that's on white land, they are a replacer. And he said we need to make sure that we start having babies. He said, but it'll take us too long to get our white women, our white men to act correctly as far as that and to get away from black people. So he said we just got to start killing people. So that's what he did. And he said my heroes are people like Dylan Roof. That's what he did. Okay, that's fine. More. That's cool. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I'm just saying, like, about the hot dogs or whatever. I'm just trying to get us to realize, though, like, it's a cultural issue. And so Dr. Frances Cress Wilson will just say about stuff and look at sports. And somebody who she wasn't even into sports, but started looking into things just to be like, like, why is this way? Like, why is it that the goal, if you're playing hockey, is to have white ice, to have a black puck that goes on it. And the goal is to make sure, right? Like we think the goal is for the black puck to score. But the reality is that the whole game is really around making sure that black puck doesn't make it into the net on white ice. Right. And she'll bring out a bunch of points as like that. Or, she'll bring out a lot of things such as, what about, golf? Where the whole thing is to get a white ball to go in a black hole or whatever. Or, it's like she writes a bunch of stuff, talking about things such as that. Or she talks about, and she's since passed. I don't even know how long ago. Maybe it's 5 years ago. I don't think it's quite a decade ago, but she's long since passed, and great ancestor. And she made it a point to talk about how when she was coming up, so I guess the 60s, 70s, stuff like that. She said you go places and you would hear men talking about how they're going to have young men in dresses in the future. And she said that they thought that person was crazy. Right? She said they thought that person was crazy to even suggest that there would be boys, especially young black boys, right, that would actually start wearing dresses. Oh, that guy. Oh, okay. So you're that guy. Yeah, you're being that guy right now. Where you're talking about, in a way, I'm playing into their hands because I'm making them famous. Okay, so true that. So if I didn't talk about them, even because here's the deal, even on the person I just talked about in the Buffalo shooting, I didn't even give him any attention until other people brought it to my attention, and then I looked and saw, oh, this is a big deal in the United States of America, right? But yeah, I didn't know about, I still don't know the guy's name. We talked about him on Patreon, but Patreon isn't for everybody. So we did talk about him a little bit on TikTok, sure. But yeah, but you're saying that because I'm talking about it, I'm the problem. I would say that the culture that denies that there's such a thing as racism, and then when he shoots people, doesn't treat him with the same, um, doesn't even look at him as bad as they look at Trayvon Martin, who was shot for just simply wearing a hoodie and protecting himself. I would say that's probably more problematic, but to each their own. Take it however you want. But yeah, but getting back to what we're talking about, oversex, and this stuff is in there, right? And we know it. It's like when people say that we shouldn't talk about, like, here's the issue, right? Oversexed, undervalued. Thomas Jefferson is considered to be a father of your nation. People are going to go visit Thomas Jefferson's grave. They're going to go visit his property in Monticello. They're going to study his great works. If you go over to Harper's Ferry, where the great Pastor John Brown, did what he did and his life ended or whatever, and people try to make him look bad because he was fighting for the rights of Black people and stuff like that. And they have a place up there that they'll say, oh, look at this place that Thomas Jefferson came and gave this great speech, because they don't want it to all be about the fact that somebody came and actually said, Black people I'm willing to die for them, even if I'm not Black. They won't even call him Pastor John Brown, even though he got kicked out of his own church. He got kicked out of his own group because he talked about Black people, right? But that same Thomas Jefferson, they'll give glory to. And there's a stone that you go up top and they say, see, he spoke at this rock. And he spoke to people about how great America was. But Thomas Jefferson was out here, our AP, our women. They didn't even call them women. It said that they were smelly, and said that they were ugly, and said that they were not valuable. He had children and let them be slaves, while still married to his wife. Eventually his wife passed, and then he was able to just do it as much as he wanted. But he was doing it pretty much as much as he wanted even when he had his wife. But this culture is okay with that because, hey, that's what a Black woman's for, right? Oversexed, undervalued. They'll tell you, even though we know that, that there were people doing surgeries and doing things in Kemet and other places, even before Kemet, thousands upon thousands of years ago. But they'll tell you that you have to make sure that you pay attention to the father of modern medicine today, who legit was doing things to Black women without anesthesiology and taking out their babies and ripping them out their wombs and putting that stuff in that now, they'll at least, before they put their fingers in some contraption in there, the OBGYN, they'll at least make sure that you're lubed up. No, not with Black women, because according to them, Black women don't feel pain. And they still teach in medical books till this day that our sisters don't feel pain. So if you feel like I'm going to be the one that's wrong, and you're saying I'm making that infamous, I would say that you need to recognize that it's been infamous since before I was born. And maybe we should call it out and make it and watch this. The same way that we think it's okay to make Nat Turner infamous because he hung, maybe we should hang some of this foolishness out to dry and make it infamous too. So that every time somebody looks at it, we get to say, this is what will happen to you if you try to mess with our people or mess with any human being, right? Jane Elliott, she must be protected at all costs. By the social construct of what people talk about, she is a white woman. And I would make sure that she is humanized, and I would make sure that she's protected at all costs, right? Tim Wise, I don't know if it's Dr. Tim Wise or Tim Wise, a white man who will admit to you that, like, there are even some things that he would say are possible contradictions and stuff, but would admit to you that, hey, we need to start talking about how all of us need to come out of these fictitious groupings and classes and make sure that we actually start living together in humanity. I would say that to anybody. Well, I'm just saying, well, okay, that guy, if I see, well, then I might not have read it correctly. So please forgive me if I misread. In a way, you are playing into their hands, making them too famous. Infamous is a form of famous. So, okay. If I misread that, I apologize. Right? I could have. And I'm not even being facetious. I could have. I don't think I did, but there's a possibility. I'm a human being. I can mess up. It's okay, sir. It's weird. You said sorry, but then you made sure that you told me that I was playing into their hands, and you said sorry. That was before I even caught what you said. So, like I said sorry. Yeah, sure, okay. You said sorry. Just because you said sorry, just because I forgive you, doesn't mean I can't talk about it. And if you feel like you need to be in control of the conversation, invite me to your podcast, and then you can control it. But if we're past it, let's be past it. But don't bring up something and be like, we can't talk about it. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That's not even how conversation works. And that's part of the problem. See, we undervalue each other. If I bring up something that's offensive to you, you have every right. You're telling me off for saying that you said sorry. Okay. Okay. Take it there if you want. You'll just shut up. Take it there if you want. I didn't ask you to shut up. I'm talking about something that you said. Right. And everybody that's on the podcast, by the way, thank you so much. We only got about a couple minutes before it shuts us off. We're really only allowed to go a couple minutes over 2 hours before we get shut off each time. So thank you for being on with us. If you want to shoot over to TikTok and YouTube, feel free to shoot on over. Right. But at the end of the day, okay, that guy, cool. Yeah, I'm very defensive when it comes to my people. You're exactly right. And if you say something offensive to my people, I will ensure that we are defended. If you do that to any human being, and by the way, in being defensive, I defended Jade Elliott and Tim Wise, who are white people, if you didn't catch it. So yeah, I'm very defensive when it comes to my women. I'm very defensive when it comes to humanity. I'm very defensive when it comes to our children. I'm very defensive when it comes to our culture. I am. You're absolutely right. And if you feel like, see, now you're doing gaslighting, you're not going to make me feel guilty about defending my people. Right? You don't have to, you're not going to make me feel guilty about defending my people. And you shouldn't feel guilty if that's how you feel. Step up on it, stand up on it. I applaud you for it. I wish that we could have an honest conversation. You shouldn't have moved off it. We should have had a conversation based off of it. If you want to call in next time, we don't have enough time, but you can call in. I'll be back on tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. If you want to come on, call in. I won't give you, 30 minutes, but you can have 2 to 5 minutes that we can have actual conversation. Now, notice what I said, actual conversation. But we can go ahead and do that. I have no problem with that. Matter of fact, our information is in the description. If you don't want to do it in front of people, you can call me one-on-one. I'm a human being like anybody else. So thank you for being on. I appreciate it. Right. But don't sit up there and say that I'm the problem because I'm talking about racism and I'm making them bigger than they should be. And then when I say something about it, you say, shut up. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense. Right. But that's what we're dealing with. Undervalued, but oversexed. Undervalued and oversexed. Undervalued, oversexed. We can see that we're undervalued very clearly. We can see that we're undervalued very clearly, and we've got to start being honest about, this being undervalued. And we got to be honest about the being oversexed. As much as we don't like to admit this, a lot of people not only remember their first, but they remember their second and their third and their fourth and their fifth and a lot of the many that you've had because you're attached to them. Real talk. Like you're attached to them. You're attached to them. How many people have you attached yourself to? Don't answer it out loud. You don't have to. That's just a food for thought, right? How many people have you attached yourself to? Think about that. Spiritually, physically, emotionally, soul ties, sexually. How many people do you attach yourself to? You know, like, for example, there's confidants, there's constituents, there's comrades. Confidants are people that are for you. Constituents are people that are for what you're for. Comrades are people that are just against what you're against, right? And if you only have a few confidants the entirety of your life, you are a blessed somebody, right? If you just have a few confidants for the rest of your life, you are a blessed somebody. And yet, when it comes to sex, people don't even be thinking about, is this somebody that's for me? I just like them, like they like me. You know, they smell nice, they got nice hips, you know, they got a big size, whatever, with them gray sweatpants, whatever. They have great credit. Okay, I guess they meet the qualifications. And you attach yourself forever. Well, you can purify yourself, but you know, if you're not careful, you can be dealing with somebody. You're dealing with a spirit. Some of you are dealing with dis-ease right now because of somebody you slept with. Because dis-ease is not just a physical thing, it is a what? It is a spirit. Some of us are dealing with dis-ease right now, not realizing that we're dealing with a spirit. Dis-ease, it starts in the spirit, right? Some of these things you're dealing with are because of the people that are still attached to you. Because we're what? We're oversexed and undervalued. I'm always very repetitive, I guess, right? But I've been extremely repetitive today because I want you to get that. I need you to comprehend it. I need you to recognize that we are in a society to where we're carrying around a bunch of stuff, right? Check this out. Have you ever thought about it from a spiritual place before we just say, when we talk about homosexuality, what we call homosexuality nowadays, right? Have you ever thought about it from a spiritual place? Is there a reason why the Most High says that a man should not lay down with a man? From a spiritual place, thank you, Sister Beverly. From a spiritual place, have you ever thought about why the Most High says that a woman should not lay down with a woman? There's a spiritual thing taking place. What does a man bring to the table spiritually as a husband? And therefore, could there be any conflict if there are two husbands? Spiritually. Or you want to talk about the same energy, whatever, right? But spiritually, what are we really doing when we have two husbands that come together? And when I say spiritual, go to the pneumatic thought, right? If you want to talk about Ravak, or if you want to talk about the pneumatical thought that marries the spirit, the body, and the soul together, whichever definition you want to go to, right? Energy, etc., right? The energy of the Most High, the energy, blah, blah, whatever you want to do. There is a masculine spirit. And when I bring masculine and masculine together, something's off. Masculine spirit and masculine spirit. Spiritually, what do you think is going on? Or what happens if two people have to let go of their masculinity in order to both be feminine? Or what happens if there's a man that has to say, I'll be completely feminine, which I'm not even created to be. So I have to live a lie, but I'm going to try and be in a true relationship with somebody who's masculine, who's designed to be able to fit with femininity, which I don't really have the ability to do. I can mimic it, but I can't be it. What happens spiritually when that happens? Conflict happens. Death can happen. Dis-ease and discomfort can happen, right? There's something going on when somebody can't get what they need. And the masculine is designed to go with the feminine. That's the Ankh principle, right? Everything is designed masculine and feminine. Even what you call polarity, right? And magnets and stuff like that. That's masculine and feminine. Even what you call that's masculine and feminine, right? When you plug something into the wall, you're dealing with masculine and feminine. When you say that you're dealing with pollen and stuff and it's too much to take in, you're dealing with masculine and feminine in the air. Like this is what everything is designed in. This is natural law. That is the nature of things. Right? One might have the womb or the ovaries or whatever. One might have the prostate or whatever. At the end of the day, the things that affect a woman and gets her to start having uh fibroid cyst, is the same thing's going to have the person start having prostate cancer. If they want to call it yin yang is kind of a different type of principle, but yeah, we could say, okay, if you want to put that into a masculine, feminine type thought process, sure, right? It's the same type of thing. But when you have one person who's masculine trying to get with somebody who's masculine, how do you get how do you get, if you're designed to be made complete by, right, then how do you get completed by yourself? To try and complete yourself is to be incomplete. You said, so why is society pushing this agenda of masculine and feminine? Because the society is based off something that's going to crumble. We don't want to talk about the spiritual side of things, and we make the spiritual so mystical it's not practical, right? There's people who preached a sermon with this title many times, right? But if I were the devil, if I wanted you to be devalued, that's what the devil is. It's somebody who devalues. If I were the devil and I wanted to devalue you, where would I start? I'd start with your marriage. And the greatest trick of the devil is to what? To get you to believe that he never exists. And if you don't exist, and you don't think that somebody would devalue you, and you become nihilistic, right? Like we talked about earlier, you lack morals, you lack principles, you say that you don't need any kind of help, and you believe that you can complete yourself within yourself. You don't even know that the universe means a single spoken sentence, which means that you got to figure out who spoke the sentence in order to figure out universal law before you can talk about it, right? But we don't comprehend it. Yeah, even Christian mythology as well. That's why I'm not a Christian. You know, but even that within itself, right? If we're talking about Christian mythology, whatever, right? This is why we have to get past this place. Like we're not in a place, once again, oversexed, undervalued. Even Christians overvalue or undervalue each other, but they're oversexed. Just because somebody goes to church don't mean they ain't having sex, right? And just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you ain't dealing with the same percentage of divorce as the world is, right? But if I were to try and attack you, I would attack you at your family. That would be the first place I would attack you, would be your family. That's the first thing that they do. If you look in the Bible, even, what is it? Daniel. Why is Daniel and the three Hebrew brothers that you know as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because you know they're Babylonian names, but they're Israelite names, the four boys are together with Daniel, Ananiah, Hananiah, and Asadiah, right? Those four Hebrew boys, why were they there? Why were they even in the position to pray and ask for the interpretation of the dream so that everybody could live? Why were they even there? Right? Yeah, Pastor Stephen Darby, great man, right? Was sad when he passed. You know, challenged a lot of people and challenged a lot of things. He was willing to stand on principle and truth. Amen. You know, hopefully his wife and his children are doing well. I've tried to check in on them from time to time. I hope they're doing well. You know, but when we talk about this stuff, like I would attack your family first. The reason why Daniel, Adonai, Hananiah, Asadiah are in, or even in a place to where they're in the king's kind of sort of the king's court, is because that they Babylon came and they took Israel, and what you do is you take Israel, and the first thing you do is you basically like take all of the high court and you take a bunch of the lower class and you bring them over. And the people that are the children in the high court, because Daniel was like 16, Ananiah, Hananiah, Azariah, they're all like young teenagers younger than him. And you take them away from their families and you put them in court. So Daniel's name was actually Belteshazzar in Babylon, and then Ananiah, Hananiah, and Azariah are actually Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So you rename them, You reclassify them, you reteach them, and then you hope that they'll basically just take on your culture. And as they grow up, the people that are lower class will look at their former masters who would still have some kind of position, and they'll be like, oh, okay, well, if that's what we do, that's what we do. They follow the lead. You break up the family, you mess up. But Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or Daniel, Ananiah, Hananiah, Asadiah, they decided that they were going to worship Yahweh no matter what. And so they never broke. And so they became problematic, even to a place where they were like, let's try and throw Daniel in the lion's den, or let's see if we can throw those 3 Hebrew boys in the fire, right? Because they would not give up on things, but they try to separate the family. And then after that, what they would do is everybody that's left over, they would take as many people lower class as possible. Then they might leave a few lower class around to just work for the people of Babylon that are going to come through and live in the place that they took over, so they can colonize that. They'll be over those poor people. They'll bring the rest of the poor people over as slaves, and then they'll put Daniel and others in positions where they can be stripped from their family, and they'll try to recreate the family in their image of what they want them to be. And if the people in high circles start acting foolish, or even start marrying into the people of Babylon, then the people of Israel will be like, oh, well, what we believe in our culture and everything don't matter. And hey, I mean, they married a Babylonian woman. Think about what happens with your sports. And I didn't even know that. I haven't read the article, so I might be ignorant on this. But think about what happens with your sports. Didn't Bronny, LeBron James' son, didn't Bronny just get a whole bunch of flack because he took the white girl to the prom or something like that? And I saw a picture of it. First thing I thought to myself was, like, LeBron James did that. Now, some people go, oh, you trying to call him a bad father, this, that, or whatever? No, right? What I'm saying is LeBron James doesn't let his son do anything like that in public. So even if his son is going to prom or whatever, like, he had to run that by his dad, or his dad told him, you're going to go with a specific girl because it makes them look a certain way, might get them a certain gift, might get them some money or things like that. And so, why people are frustrated is, well, if you'll do that and kind of sell out your son and sell out your family and stuff just to make sure that you can get to the next level on something, well, then guess what? Like, now you're destroying others, because now there are going to be people who want to be like Bronny, who's getting all this playing stuff, but Bronny really gets it because he's your son. He's not even that great at basketball, at least not until recently. He's better than most, but not on the level that people make him. But they only do that because he's your son. Now all of a sudden, they see somebody who's already got an unfair advantage, who's dealing with somebody whose father's kind of selling them out, and now you got these young boys saying, "Oh, okay, well, if that's what I'm supposed to take to prom, then that's what I'm supposed to take to prom." Now, that might be a little too far, right? I wouldn't even agree that that's 100% how we should look at it, but real talk, like, that's something that's there, right? You attack the family. So why do you attack the masculine? Why do you say masculinity is toxic? If I want people to devalue the person, then I attack, the sexuality, if you will. Anything masculine is toxic. Matter of fact, it's gotten to a point to where now, if you're a man and you say that I'm not attracted to a trans woman, they would say, oh, so you are somebody who's homophobic. No, I just don't feel like having sex with somebody who has what I have. I'm not attracted to that, right? But why do you, as a masculine person, want to be with somebody who's feminine? Aren't they feminine? No, they dress like somebody that's feminine, but they don't possess the feminine quality that I need. See, it's like if you go to like, okay, the chemise I have on right now, right, or you call it a shirt, whatever. The shirt that I have on right now, it's of high quality. It's well made. It's well put together. It's awesome, right? Somebody might come to you with a shirt like this that's a print of it, but it's not the same quality. Or it's like a dashiki, right? A lot of people will get a dashiki print, which means it's got certain African, symbols and stuff on it, but it's not an actual dashiki. So if I saw a dashiki print, I might wear it, but I know it's not the same quality as the actual dashiki. So I shouldn't pay money for the dashiki print that I would pay for the dashiki, because the dashiki is of higher quality, of higher value, right? So why is it that I would say that the trans woman who is not able to carry the child, who's not able to have the period, who is not somebody who gives birth to me or my children, who's not somebody who's look bad because of who she is and can't even change it and won't change it, to trying to stand as who she is, why would I devalue her by saying that the thing of less quality, I know, I'm sorry, I said thing, the person who's trying to be the same quality but cannot be by definition, why would I put them on the same level? Why would I do so? I wouldn't. He said, but you can't talk to our people about that without being attacked. Yeah, and that happens. That happens. Sure. Said your wife is Mexican and white, and you're a black man. Okay. Hopefully you respect each other's culture. That's what comes with that. Said, how do you establish sovereign communities like Amish and Hasidic? Is that what you're doing? So yeah, so we already working on that. We're working on the land right now. Once we get the land, but there's, if you want to talk more with us about that, we had, it's called YLP 83, stands for Yah's Land Project. And we're saying 83 because of the amount of donation we ask people to give, for families, not even people. It probably would work best for us if it was per person, but we ask for families to give a certain amount of whatever donation to help us where we're headed. But yeah, but you can ask us more questions about this. Just get in contact with us. We always say that to people, just get in contact with us, text us, email us. We got the information, look at our website, where it says website. If you're on TikTok asking that question, look where it says website, go to the link there. That's our, I forget what they call the link, but basically click on that link for the website and it'll pop up and it'll have all these different links that you can go to, find a way to contact us, and we'll get back in touch with you ASAP. I probably won't do it today because Sunday's my day, family day. So I do very little stuff on Sunday. I do very little stuff on Wednesday because Wednesday is my day off. But yeah, we'll try to get in touch with you. Anthony says, me being a man, do look at other women that look good, but I give respect to my wife. Yeah, I get that. And that's part of, being honest. Like there'll be times where you notice that another woman's beautiful, this and that, but even in that, try to, as long as, definitely keep it in check and try not to make it, where something that's maybe like a 1-2 second gaze, now gives you permission to become 5-minute gaze and stuff. That's when we start getting into some weird territory. But I get it. We're all human beings. Ain't no hate on that. Means that society is set up to the point where if you bring up facts about it, you get attacked. Sure. And that's why we have to be willing to be attacked. Are you willing to be attacked? Are you willing to take on the attack? Are you willing to take on the affront? Are you willing for somebody to say, like's happened today quite a few times? Oh, you know what? You're dead wrong about everything that you say. Nothing that you say is of any value. I'm going to find a problem with every single thing that you say. And then when you give me hermeneutical, homiletical, and apologetical structure to be able to substantiate that what you say, I'm still going to say that you're wrong. I'm going to gaslight. I'm going to create a straw man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, yeah, we got a problem with you. You have Dunning-Kruger effect at that point, or you just have so much cognitive dissonance, or you're just so hurt that you just want to hurt people. And to that, I wish you well, right? But my mental health and the mental health of my people has to be above and beyond us stopping everything just to make sure that your mental health is something better. How you doing, Alan? I wish everybody's mental health well, but I can't stop everything I'm doing to ensure that one person gets it together. It's not our, that's something else. We have to remember where we talk about that. It's not my responsibility to save the world. None of us can save the world. Wait a minute, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? No, we're in the world, but we're not of it. And we're trying to make sure that we can become bridges or create bridges that cause people to come out of a chaotic system into a system that benefits all. It's a different thing, You said almost like being a lion and a male gorilla to protect your own, but also showing love to others. We definitely can talk about those things and showing love and, being in position. We try our best, but at the end of the day, like there's a territory that we have. And that's one of the things that's missing. That's why even with Yah's Land Project, YLP 83 and stuff, that's why one of the biggest issues that's there with us is there. It's like we're trying to protect our community. We're trying to make sure that we stop things being over sexualized. We're trying to bring up the value or the appreciation even of our people, right? And yet we do not have territory. Lions fight for territory. After they get the territory, their only fight is to keep the territory. Did you catch that? Yehuda, lion of the tribe of Judah. Yehuda, did you catch that, Judah? Right? Lions fight for territory. But once they have territory, and as long as nobody violates the territory, they are not fighting. If you want more information on the stuff, we're not putting out everything in public. Once again, contact us. Let us know. We can have conversation about it. All right. There's certain things that I'm not putting out in public. Right. I'm not. There's certain things I'm not going to do it. Right. Especially if we, and then especially there are those who are giving donations, doing work behind the scenes, doing stuff like that. There are certain things that, there's levels to that. It doesn't mean that it won't be open to all, but there's just protocol, right? So just letting you know, I'm not coming against anybody, right? But that's why we say, look it up, contact us, ask the questions. We can set up stuff and things that I'm, allowed to say to the community, by those who are on certain levels because of what they're doing. I respect that, right? You said property can't own property. Yeah, once again. So that's why we try to make sure that everybody's hip, and anybody who's going to be on the land, you need to work towards being sovereign. You need to stop worrying about attaching yourself to the birth certificate. You don't need to authenticate a birth certificate that's authenticating the straw man that you are, and therefore the slave that you are, and the stock and the bond is part of you and all that. Yeah, sure. So that's why you have to make sure that you are a non-citizen national, or if you want to call yourself a Moor, or if you want to find a way to attach yourself to a freedman, or if you want to even go by the native side and can prove your blood and all that stuff, whatever you need to, and go by their rhetoric to do so, right? And therefore you can start worrying about your W-8 being instead of your W-2, W-4, W-9, 1099, all that. Yeah, we talk about all that. We with you. I'm with you. I got you. You got a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of stuff you hit me to. There's some stuff you said that I don't even know about. I'm a study, so I'm with you. But I just want to let you know overall, I'm with you. Okay, I got you right. But that's what we're intending to do. Because if you are an actual sovereign and you're going to become a sovereign nation, then you have to be sovereign on paper, and that's part of the execution or lack thereof that is problematic with us as a people. It's part of the lack thereof. We lack the ability to talk about these things. We're not willing to go through these things, and we're not willing to give into those things. Like people just say, become separate from the system. Okay, as soon as you become separate from the system, where are you going to live, though? Well, I'll live on my own land and this and that or whatever. Okay, so how's that going to help your community? Well, it'll just be one more person that's free. Okay, so what is it, 13%? That's what they say, or 14, 15, 16, 18, whatever they say. 13% of America is supposed to be Black, right? If you want to say we're Moors, if you want to say you're Native, if you want to say you're African, if you want to say you're Israel, whatever you want to call yourself, right? Let's just keep the main thing for this conversation. If you are, well, you're somebody that's on Patreon, thank you, right? The people that are doing YP83, they're giving, this reason it's called 83 is because they're willing to give a donation of at least $83.34 a month. So there's a big difference between the $5 Patreon. Even if some people are giving pledges, right? There's nobody really on our Patreon. We don't have it set up, nor do we want it set up, right? People are trying to be given have to give $85 a month for extra content, right? So there's a difference in between the two. But still, just once again, get in contact with, I know you're on Patreon and stuff like that. But once again, just get in contact. We set up a meeting. We can talk about it, whatever. And there's certain things we can still talk about, just certain things that I'm not going to say in public, right? So, there's just certain things that, we appreciate it. It's not even about that. It's just YLP83. There's a specific way we govern ourselves. There's things that everybody agreed to. And because of what they agreed to, I'm willing to honor what they agreed to. And I'm not going to give everything to everybody, especially if those people aren't doing, some of the stuff behind the scenes. There's levels to everything. Like there's people that do admin work. There's people in admin that do project management. There's people that do project management, but my wife is over project management, and my wife gets to tell me certain things because I'm over the vision side, but she's over the project management. So she's like, "Hey, Kofi, you need to do blah 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 blah." I gotta bow down and do what she says. But yeah, I think we've pretty much allotted a lot of it, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we're working on stuff to even write out to where people can even start seeing it. So even with lack of meetings, people should be able to see updates and stuff pretty soon with our Google Docs and all that. But long story short, back to what we're talking about, like we have to have some kind of, we have to have, and even if you're talking about how does property get property, don't even worry about property, get land, right? Property and land are two different things. So you shouldn't even necessarily want property, right? You should want land, right? And you shouldn't want a social security number anymore, right? At least not attached to your name. You should want to, right? In fact, it's illegal. Here's how this stuff works in the straw man and all that. It's actually illegal. But remember, how can you say you got a birth certificate and your birth certificate is real, but it's got to be authenticated. It means it's inauthentic. How, right? How can you say that you can, how do you say that you use your social security number to get a job? And you think that you're in a real system, but the reality is that it's illegal to use your birth certificate as a form of identification. So which means that, I'm not sorry, not your birth certificate, but your social security number. It's illegal to use your social security card because your social security card is supposed to be a bank card that says they will pay you money when you're in need. There's actually two numbers attached to the social security card, right? There's a checking account and there's a routing number. They used to have both on there. I think some still might, right? But it used to be a thing that we knew. So you have to recognize these things, right? But we keep going, okay, just get your own land and do this. Okay, but it's like, all right, but you live 5 hours this way, and you live 20 hours this way, and you live 3 hours this way, and you live 4 hours this. So even if you 4 or 5 people got all your own land, how in the world are you able to defend it? If something happens, how are you able to protect yourselves? We're not even together. And that's the main thing, like keeping the main thing, like, valuing that. But we don't even have a place to where we don't have land to where we can make sure that we are not oversexed and undervalued. Right? Like we are not even in a place to have that conversation yet. Y'all hear what I'm saying? We're not even in that place to have that type of conversation. We're not. You would think that we would possibly be there by now, but we're not. We're not even in a place to have that conversation because we're still in the land of our captivity. That's why those words are brought up in the Tanakh or the God or the Bible, etc. You're still in the land of your captivity. Even if you think different, you still got to go. Like, even if you know it's Lashan at Shabbat, right? You still think Sunday through Saturday, right? Even if you know there's technically 12 hours in a day, you still think there's 24 hours in a day. Why? Because that's the reality you live in. You can't start putting your own rules in place until you have a place that's your own. Exactly. Most of us still captivated by the beast. We still think mentally, spiritually like the beast. We still have Stockholm syndrome. We'll still tell you if it's not written in Eurocentric books that it's not real. At some point, it gets to a place where you got to have, or be allowed to be at least a steward over the Most High, what He gives you, right? And you have the dominion. Even the Bible talks about your dominion over the earth. You have dominion. You have the choice. You have the right. You can be in righteousness. You said you never seen a black person in all your 23 years. Well, if you're talking about the actual color black, I mean, I can take you some places in the Sudan to where you'd feel like they were so black they're blue, or some places in Nigeria. So that's not a problem to say that does a black person exist. But even when people do the whole, well, what is black? What is the territory? Like, what is a Negro? Blah, blah. It's like, that Negro is considered to be one of the most ancient ways of saying West Africa. And that's stuff that even the noble Drew Ali used to hype up, right? So I ain't even talking about we got to go through that long ago to be able to get this, right? Or if you want to look at, there are people that call themselves slippery blacks. They would actually kill them. They were very dark-skinned people, and they actually called themselves that because during war it was a tactic to get people scared because they said they'd kill so many people that the blood would be on them and they'd be slippery. What about Kemet? Kemet is literally the study of black, Kimi, and Kemetstry. And Kemetstry is the study of Kemet. Kemet focused on the pineal gland. That's even if you look at the shape of the pineal gland, right? A lot of people don't know that the pineal gland is, if you look at it, it is pine cone. But if you look at like what's around the pineal gland and everything, that's where what you call the eye of Horus now comes from. The eye of Horus is actually shaped like that pineal gland area, right? Like we're doing this weird thing where we're going off of, I get it, Black's Law Dictionary. Like I was blessed by Minister Sonia, and before that we knew about it and everything, but she gave us the latest edition of the Black's Law Dictionary, right? But we comprehend how the law works. We get it, right? So if you're talking more, and I understand if I go to courtroom, I can't say that I'm black, I can't say that I'm colored, I can't say that I'm Negro, because to them that would mean that I would be an artificial person. It also means that I'd be trying to talk into my humanity. And if you look at the definition of humanity, it means that I'm a monster. A monster in their definition means that you have no rights. I get it. Right? I get it. And I tell people I am a Moor because I know what a Moor is. A Moor is not just a belief system, right? And by the way, a Moor is somebody that's bigger than just Morocco. Even though we only do that, we have it limited to thinking that Morocco is therefore what allowed America to be America, because Moors, did business with America, and therefore because of that we had the ownership and da da da. We had the Moorish tribes that were here, and yada yada yada, and therefore we had to make sure. Yeah, I get all that, but what I'm saying is that whatever you can call yourself, whatever this argument is, all these different things, at the end of the day, right? Like there's a diaspora, and even when you talk more is not technically a place, because the way law works, wherever your foot treads is yours, but you have to first be qualified. You have to first be somebody who said that, right? And I've got dictionary. Yeah, we got Black's Law Dictionary edition 1 all the way to now, and you got to get legal dictionaries before then too, and that's once again only dealing with the West, right? That ain't the world, that's just the West, and a lot of that's the North American West. You go to England, it's very similar, but there's dissimilarities too. So, but it depends on where you are, where we are, what we're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to be in this position, right? You have to be in this position to where you get outside of like, oh, like more is not a term that means a place. Believe it or not, Israel is not a term that means a place. Believe it or not, Afla is not a term that means a place. Matter of fact, Aflas were Arabic. Somebody said, what do you mean they're Arabic? Because Arabic didn't mean a language. Arabic meant nomadic. So we're in the land of our captivity. That's part of the problem. Okay, Borderland, stuff like that. Okay, cool. Right. If that's the way route you go, cool. But either way, if you want to do the Moorish thing, it takes a little more effort, and you want to do that, and you want to say it has to be this way, that's cool. I'm talking about just being a non-citizen national. That's something that can easily be done by getting that passport done. You got to do it correct, but you could easily do it. And then from there, you're already updated. The problem is, even if we update your paperwork, you got to live sovereign. You got to have, where's your food? Where are your clothes? Where are your weapons? Where's your land? Who lives with you? Who's going to rock with you? Who's going to come together? It don't matter what you want to call yourself at that point. If we're talking about sovereignty, where is that stuff? Who you live with? Are you willing to do that stuff? Like we're close to it, and we'll have people that'll say, "Oh, okay, cool. Can you show?" And we do it all the time. Can you show us how to do what you're doing? We're gonna try to put together our own community. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I'm like, why don't we just do this together? You know what I'm saying? Why don't we just do it together? No, you don't need to authenticate your birth certificate. Your birth certificate says you're a straw man. If you get your birth certificate authenticated, think about it. Your birth certificate says that you're a fake person, right? Just rock with me for a second, right? Your birth certificate says you're a fake person. And thank you for the love, Minister Tamara, earlier. I'm sorry I didn't say it. Shalom, how you doing, Minister Nice? Um, so your birth certificate says you're a straw man, right? It says you're a fake individual. It says that they could, even if you want to go with, maritime law and all that, you were dead at sea, all that stuff, whatever way you want to go, right? It says you're a fake person. Why would you get that authenticated? Why would you say, I authentically want to be somebody that's fake? Now, somebody said, yeah, but you can do blah, blah. All you got to do is go get a DS-11, DS-11, DS-11 form, and learn how to fill that out correctly. There's certain places you need to put 5 zeros in there. There's certain you may need to make sure nobody on there is considered to be an American citizen. I'm not talking about considered. I'm talking about you don't consider them. You right know. There's certain things you need to learn how to be able to fill it out. Certain places you shouldn't put anything whatsoever, right? But once you get that done, you got your paperwork done. You can easily go to your job, say, I don't want to have taxes taken out or withheld. Like you can get that stuff done, but still sovereignty is bigger than just a piece of paper. Sovereignty is supposed to be about a kingdom. Right? So yeah, your birth certificate is inauthentic. If you get it authenticated, what you're saying is, I agree with the birth certificate is. If the birth certificate says you're a straw man, then you're just saying, yeah, I'm authentically a straw man. You probably don't want to do that. Some people say go that route. We suggest probably that you don't. Right? So you have to recognize that, even lawfully, even legally, even interpretation of law. Like there's all these different things. That's why we have classes outside this. On this, as much as people think we go very in depth on things, we're very topical on a lot of this stuff, because this stuff is years and years and years. And then how do you get it to go, and all these different things or whatever. This is constant and consistent growth over years and stuff. And you got to get to a place. And a lot of people will tell you, you don't know you're sovereign until it's time for you to actually have to be sovereign. Like until you have somebody legally try to do some foolishness or challenge you, you'll see if you're actually sovereign or not, right? But yeah, paperwork is something that's great, all that stuff. If you're a non-citizen national, you can call yourself whatever you want anyways, right? As long as you don't, long as you know how to do it right in court, it doesn't really matter. So, but you have to recognize that, and recognize even like as far as debt. That's why you want to make sure, like sovereignty, even about debt. Like I could teach you how to make sure that you don't have to pay taxes. But if you still don't know how to spend money correctly, guess what? You'll still go into debt. If you go into debt, every person in debt is a slave, and every person that's a slave is in debt. So even as far as that, like if you go into debt and then were you dishonorable? Now, if you were honorable, but they tried to force you into debt, then we can do a bill of exchange, right? But that's why we do certain things offline, because a lot of people will take this and they will mess themselves up because they're not trying to be holy or holy one in their life. And so they take sovereignty and they say, I just want to say that I'm better than somebody, or I just want to say that I'm a freedman, or I just want to be able to say I don't pay taxes, or I just want to be able to have my birth certificate. If I get pulled over, I can break the law, I can speed, and nobody can do anything about it. That's not what it's about. It's a whole thing. A lot of us are trying to be partial. We're partial to success, but not wholly or whole or one in success. Right? We're trying to go to all these different things or whatever, and we're not trying to be honest about it. Even when we talk about the Moor and the native Moor and this and that or whatever, we don't even want to talk about indigenous people that were here, that were social construct black. We don't even talk about that. And what is the original definition of an American? See, before we talk about Morocco and all that, like, first of all, what was the original definition of an American by law? Because it wasn't a Moor, and it wasn't a white man for sure, right? Like these are just things I'm just saying we have to be aware of. Either way, though, I think we made the point. I don't really feel being led anywhere else. Thank you guys so much. I got to get ready for Family Day today. Hopefully, you guys were able to get something out of this, whether you were on the podcast and came over, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on YouTube. We appreciate your presence today. And we look at, and we're thankful and grateful for you guys. You said, well, Webster, yeah, Webster's okay. Webster changes every once in a while, but I don't really care for Webster or Merriam-Webster or whatever the other was, Oxford and all these other things. But I get it. At the end of the day, though, find the truth, study for yourself. And if I'm wrong about something, I can be wrong, right? But as somebody who lives it, as somebody that you can't really see anything with my social attached to it, right? Like you're somebody who I'm telling you, like I have many different names I can go by, depending on the authority that I want to be able to use. People don't even think you're allowed to have different names. I'm sorry, Jeremiah, I missed what you said. You said you allowed yourself to stay in pain. You were consumed in sex. And why does sovereignty have another meaning to it? Well, I don't know if sovereignty has another meaning to it. I don't know what that part is. But yeah, if we're not careful, consumed in sex stuff, it'll break you up. It'll mess you up. You said everybody came from Africa to every other continent before any other race. Okay, sure. No disagreement there. That's not what I was talking about. I guess in a sense. But yeah, I'm with you. That's not anything that's a problem over here. We talk about that quite often. But you have different names depending on what your authority is. But we don't even know about that. Oh, okay. Okay. I apologize. I'm going back and forth. So if I came off as wrong, I apologize. I admit wrongdoing. Apologize is different. I admit wrongdoing. Please forgive me. So, these are things that we have to, we have to recognize. We have to think about. And we're still in the land of our captivity, right? But we have to, at least before we get our land together, we still have to make sure we start changing the mindset. A lot of us are oversexed and undervalued. And until we have a place to where we can make sure that our women who are the most educated will actually be paid as such, you can't be upset if they're in somebody else's land that says, "Oh, we moved the goalpost." They're allowed to do it. It's their stadium. You'll go support their football stadium, but then you get mad when they move the goalpost. Well, it's their football stadium. Stop supporting it. Make your own. Then you can start being mad with your own when they move the goalpost. But if it's somebody else's football stadium and you keep supporting them, you know, how about them Cowboys, right? First of all, it's cow hands, and everybody want to be Cowboys because they call black folk boys, but you support it. But then you get mad when they, don't help you out. Like, why would they? You pay them already. Why would you? Why would they change? See, the land of our captivity. Why would the people who you're in their land of captivity change? And you keep giving them money anyways. You're gonna buy the jersey anyways. They're gonna have Dak Prescott come out and tell you guys, right, that Jerry Jones has it all together, and because he's a black quarterback, that everything's fine. And you're gonna buy the jersey with his number on it, with his name on it, and you're gonna make Jerry's pockets fatter. And in the NFL, because he got to share that money with the NFL too. Stockholm syndrome. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about, it doesn't get away until we at least see this stuff that we do every day. At least bare minimum, this is virtual real estate, right? The website that we have, the stuff we do on Zoom, the people who are being trained to do different things, whatever the stuff we have for our children, the books, the music, all these different things, the shirts that are coming down the way. Like, this is at least virtual real estate where we can support, and we know where it goes. We know where it goes to. We have proof that it goes to the places it goes to. Like, we have absolute proof. We have absolute evidence. We know what's happening. So, but thank you all. We appreciate you once again. Know this is the word of Yahweh, and we ask that you study it and meditate on it so you can be a hearer of it as well as a doer as well, because execution is key. We praise Yah for my wife, the Honorable Maya, once again, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And if you want to email her, just add a number 1 to that, Bloom and Flourish, the number 1 at gmail.com. And thank you, babe, for everything that you do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. Love you so much. Once again, to Marsha, Malcolm, Betty, Isabel, and Solomon, Daddy loves you very much. Thank you so much for listening in. Everybody, to the ministerial staff, the moderators, those who listen in all the time. If it's your first time with many, etc., we thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. And we look forward to talking to you very soon. Don't forget, those who are in Chicago and Detroit, we'll be in Chicago the 27th and 28th. We'll be in Detroit the 29th and the 30th. So we look forward to talking to you all very soon. And somewhere in between there, we might even, if time allows, maybe it'll be very quick. But if y'all want to work with us as far as saying hello here or there, because we got some family stuff, obviously, to take care of while we're on the road. We appreciate you all. We appreciate even those who challenge us. Please don't get it twisted. When people challenge us, you're supposed to test it out to see if what we're saying makes sense. Just please keep in mind that we just ask that this be a safe space. So when people take it from where it's no longer a safe space, then that's when we can't really have conversation with one another. But prayerfully, we're trying to make the main thing, which overall is the advancement of all our people, of all our people, of every single one of them, that want to come out. Remember, it's not your goal, or maybe it is your goal, but it shouldn't be. It's not your job. It's not your work to save everybody. It is your job to be a bridge and allow them to be able to go through the door of Yashvai into a kingdom mindset that's different than the republic that they're in right now. So thank you all. We appreciate and honor each and every one of you. June 5th is fast approaching. I forgot to do our virtual Omer box today. Our virtual Omer box, we'll put in there our lust issues. We ask that you pray about your lust issues if you can. Everybody probably has something that they deal with. For those of you who don't, praise Yah that you're perfect. But those of you who might still have, certain desires or lust that you have, we're praying for you, and prayerfully you'll pray for yourself. Don't forget, October 14th through the 16th will be here before you know it. So please be ready for that. And those who'd like to become Patreon members, YLP 83 members, if you'd like to be able to give, some of you give donations, offerings, some of you even give tithes. We're thankful. Whatever you want it to be for, you guys get to tell us in the comments what we have to use it for. But we have all that information, class information, ways you can start your own stuff, help out with what we're doing, give your gift, your talent, your effort, your energy, whatever it is you want to give, right? We're just thankful for anybody that even thinks us worthy of spending some time together to listen to let alone some of the great things some of you guys are doing behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. Excuse me. So thank you again. We appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and get my family day in. So we look forward to talking to you guys very soon. We thank you. We appreciate you. We honor the king and queen in each and every one of you. And we look forward to talking to you very soon. And so, as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, yesterday, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Bless and shalom. Have a great day, and enjoy your families. Pray for Minister Tamara as she gets ready to give us a word for early rise of Bible study session tomorrow. And then I'll be right behind her at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time to continue this frequently asked questions series. And thank you so much. Had a great day. Had a great week last week, from all the classes that started, even through the stuff we did on Saturday. Had a lot of time. And don't forget, sisters, we do have our women's meeting next Saturday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time on Zoom. Please be ready, and please, be ready to go with the Holy Spirit and what she has for us and what she's given to the Honorable Maya or whomever is going to be in position. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. Much love to everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.